Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 44:13. Hee, that's good, that's good. Hearing this, Goldie stretched out a claw from Dai's arms and shouted to Little Black, come here, this is Sister Dai. I've told you before. I know, I've seen her at home. Little Black was not as excited as Goldie. He flew closer and wagged his tail. Greetings, Sister Dai. Hello, Little Black. Dai replied with a smile. She did not hug Little Black. It was not that Dai's chest was not big enough, it was that her heart was not big enough. Sister, where have you been for the past few hundred years? Isn't our family doing well? How did you learn to run away from home? Goldie did not have any scruples in front of Dai and asked directly. Dai was startled. She raised her head slightly and looked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua only looked at her with a smile and didn't answer. Dai's mind quickly turned. She smiled and said to Goldie, it's a bit boring at home. Sister is going out for a walk. That's right, it's not good to stay at home all the time. Goldie spoke quickly and said, Little Black and I also came out, but I don't know where Sister went. Dai was a bit speechless. She could tell Goldie what she saw from the Thousand Demon Realm to Dawn Rain Continent, but she did not want to lie to Goldie. Xiaohua smiled and said, after Yuanya returns, I'll let him tell you about it. Father, Yuanya is still here. Didn't he leave with his master? What about his wretched master? Is he still so lecherous? Goldie's words could not be stopped. It was like a torrential river. How was it similar to the ferocious Deity beast in the great desolate continent? Right, how is Yuanya and that Jia Wu? It's been a few hundred years, their children should know how to play soy sauce now, right? Xiaohua held his forehead and smiled bitterly. When he was young, Goldie was talkative, but Xiaohua thought it was cute. Who would have thought that Goldie would become a chatterbox now? Ya's master is dead. Ya is now your father's disciple. On the contrary, Dai replied calmly, Jia Wu also left Ya. If there are no accidents, she should have died a few hundred years ago. They can't have children playing soy sauce. Ioyo. There are so many stories. Goldie was extremely excited, as if his gossipy heart had been revived. He cried out, back then, Brother Ya was completely infatuated with that Jia Wu. At this point, Goldie suddenly froze as if he had understood something. He said in surprise, Sister, you're called Brother Ya. Ya. Ioyo, sister, how can Brother Ya be worthy of you? He was really bored. Out of 3 questions, he couldn't even answer a single one. Moreover, his cultivation was also extremely poor. Don't look for him. I think Brother Lu is not bad. He's handsome and has a glib tongue. While they were talking, a loud and clear dragon roar came from the distance. In the sky, dozens of colorful dragons flew over under the stars and moon. They were majestic, and the golden dragon in front was even more eye-catching. However, when they flew closer, a powerful aura appeared beside the golden dragon. This aura was restrained and not ostentatious, as if the owner of this aura was deliberately keeping a low profile. Even so, the aura that leaked out was enough to suppress the dragon's aura. A bloody, soul-devouring, and terrifying aura was emitted from that aura. Brother Ya? Goldie was dumbfounded. He whispered, when did this guy become so powerful? He's not just powerful. Blackie curled his lips and said, his ability to pick up girls is even higher. Xiaohua, who was beside them, heard it clearly. He was so shocked that he almost fell from the sky. He was very surprised in his heart, damn it. Where did these 2 brats go? Where did they learn these words? The dragons were the first to arrive, but they didn't dare to approach. When they were a few miles away from Xiaohua, they stopped and turned into their human forms. They bowed and said, Greetings, Dragon Master Xiao. Good, thank you for your hard work. Xiaohua nodded slightly and said. Yuanya, Ao Sheng, and Ao Zhan flew over. Yuanya bowed and said, Master. An. Xiao Hua looked at Yuanya and asked, how many dragons did you kill? Not a single one. Yuanya replied, they were scared out of their wits by Master. I waved my demonic spear and they all surrendered. Good. Xiao Hua didn't ask Yuanya anymore. He waved his hand and asked Yuanya to leave. He then turned to ask Ao Sheng and Ao Zhan, what did these dragons say? Who sent them? Ao Sheng and Ao Zhan didn't dare to delay. They bowed and said, greetings, Dragon Master. Let me tell you, they themselves don't know who gave the orders. It's not out of my expectations. Xiao Hua nodded. He wasn't surprised at all. Ao Sheng said again, let's talk about this after I return to Dragon Island and see Long Su on the island. There should be some clues. Little elder, you're too optimistic. Xiao Hua smiled and said, if there were any clues in Long Su, why would Ao Jia let you be the bait? Unfortunately, Ao Jia underestimated this person. He didn't expect dozens of dragons to appear at once. If it wasn't for me, you would have been eaten by them. Damn it. Ao Sheng said angrily, when I return to Dragon Island, I will definitely expose that bastard's face. What right do you have? Xiao Hua said coldly, even Ao Jia doesn't dare to show his cards. What right do you have? I. Ao Sheng heard and couldn't help but feel dejected. Ao Zhan smiled and said, little elder, don't worry. Don't you still have me? Even if I'm not strong enough, there's still Dragon Master Xiao. I feel useless. Ao Sheng raised his head painfully and said, I want to be like Yuanya and step on that piece of shit under my feet to vent my anger. Ao Zhan shrugged and expressed his helplessness. On the path of strength, if it wasn't hard work, then it was opportunity. Ao Zhan obtained the inheritance of the dragons in the relic realm. That was an opportunity. But even if there was an opportunity, he still had to work hard. He wanted to stand above the dragon palace. It wasn't something that could be done in a short time, let alone Ao Sheng. I'm back. Yuanya flew to Dai's side. There wasn't much of a smile on his face. He only said one sentence and didn't ask how Dai came out of Shenhua continent. Then, he looked at Goldie and Blackie and said, you two are back too. Look. Goldie said unhappily, we haven't seen each other for hundreds of years, and he still doesn't look happy. What's so good about him? Sister, don't want him. I'll find you a better one. Brother Lu isn't enough, but there's still Wang Bianfei. That little guy is outstanding. He must be a handsome young master now. Yuanya was stunned. He glanced at Goldie but didn't react. Dai smiled and ignored Goldie. She patted his head and said to Yuanya, you're not hurt, are you? No. Yuanya answered with one word. Good. Dai also answered with one word. Both of their eyes were full of smiles. Sigh, there's no other way. Seeing that the two of them were silent, Goldie was also helpless. He cried out, a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. A tortoise and a mung bean, they're compatible. Blackie said from the side. Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and looked at Ao Sheng who was in pain. He muttered in his heart. Ao Sheng was the current dragon body of the dragon god of the primitive continent. Xiao Hua obtained the dragon bones and other things left behind by the dragon god in the primitive continent. These things could be said to be Ao Sheng's, but they could also be said to not be Ao Sheng's. After all, it had been 2 lives. However, Ao Sheng was very affectionate. When he heard that Xiao Hua was suppressed by Monster King Bai Qingyu, he ignored his own safety and came to rescue him. Of course, Ao Jia calculated it. If not for Ao Sheng's stubbornness, how could Ao Jia bear to let Ao Sheng take the risk? Based on Ao Sheng's affection, Xiaohua couldn't say that the dragon bones and other things had nothing to do with Ao Sheng. But the problem was that the things left behind by the dragon god were useful to Daoist Yun. The dragon god had a dispute with Jiang Luer's Maitreya Buddha in his previous life. Xiaohua didn't know what this dispute was, and he didn't have the right to know. But Xiaohua had the right to decide what the dragon god left behind. Now that Jiang Luer had abandoned the position of Buddha Lord in her previous life, it was even more impossible for Xiaohua to give all of the dragon god's things to Ao Sheng. Besides, even if Xiaohua wanted to give everything to Ao Sheng now, with Ao Sheng's current cultivation and dragon body, it was impossible for him to get it. These things were enough to make all the dragons go crazy. They would only make Ao Sheng die faster. Since he had made his decision, Xiaohua smiled and asked, Ao Sheng, I have an idea. Are you willing to accept it? I already knew that Dragon Master had an idea. Tell me, tell me. When Ao Sheng heard this, the pain on his face disappeared like the wind blowing away the clouds. Damn it. Xiaohua touched his nose and smiled bitterly. I seem to have fallen into your trap. Hee hee. Ao Sheng glanced at Ao Zhan and said, Ao Zhan was just an Eastern Sea Dragon guard before, but now he is so powerful. I asked him many times, but he refused to say anything. But do I still have to ask? Even a blind person can see that it is related to Dragon Master. Compared to 200 years ago, Dragon Master's strength is even more different. If I don't look for Dragon Master, who else can I look for? You are my Dragon Clan's Dragon Master. Ao Zhan also smiled and said, Spiritual Master, Ao Sheng is definitely a Dragon Clan member who is very affectionate. It is rare in my Dragon Clan. He is also very concerned about you. If you can help him, please do your best to help him. How can I not know about his cunning mind? Xiaohua smiled and said, Back then in the Stacked Jade Legacy realm, I already knew. Hee hee. Hearing Xiaohua mention the Stacked Jade Legacy realm, Ao Sheng's heart calmed down. He knew that Xiaohua had already agreed. But Xiaohua's face turned serious and said, You have to make a dragon oath in front of me first, no problem. Ao Sheng said without hesitation, I will never betray Dragon Master in this life. I will not betray Dragon Island. I will. Chapter 44:14. That's not it. Xiaohua waved his hand in annoyance. Just as he was about to explain, he thought, everything in this world has karma. The karma between Lord Dragon God and the previous incarnation of Maitreya Buddha is their own matter. If I force Ao Sheng to swear a dragon oath not to take revenge on Jiang Luer, wouldn't that be interfering with their karma? This is unfair to Ao Sheng. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Ao Sheng asked curiously, what does Master Long want to say? There's no need. Xiaohua laughed, even if I don't trust Ao Jia, how can I not trust Ao Sheng? This so-called dragon oath, let's not talk about it anymore. Xiaohua. Ao Sheng was really touched. He actually called Xiaohua by his name, I will never betray you in the future. You dare. Xiaohua glared at him, when the time comes, I'll slap you into meat paste. Ao Sheng shrunk his neck and curled his lips, you're right, with your strength, who dares? Since you've agreed, then it's easy. Xiaohua raised his head and said to the group of dragons, return to the Dragon Island and inform the Dragon Hall of this matter. Ao Sheng will cultivate with this Xiao, and when he succeeds, this Xiao will let him return to the Dragon Island. Yes. We obey Master Long's order. How could the group of dragons dare to disobey? They urged their bodies to fly away. Wait. Xiaohua raised his hand and said, don't be in a hurry to return now, wait for my Fortune Gate disciples to set off, then all of you will return together. Yes. The dragons were overjoyed. The Fortune Gate disciples were an army of 200,000, who would dare to face them head-on. Then this junior will return with the Fortune Gate disciples. Ao Zhan smiled. Actually, this junior also wants to cultivate with Master Long. You don't have to. Xiao Hua laughed. Your opportunity is different from Ao Sheng's. Oh, there's one more thing. Xiao Hua then told Ao Zhan about Jiang Hong leading the group of dragons back to the Heavenly Paradise River. In the end, he said, Jiang Hong and Lu Yi are this Xiao's disciples, and they are in charge of the Heavenly Paradise River. They will help you return to the Dragon Hall. Jiang Hong may have some ambition, but she is a woman, after all, this Xiao. Lu Yi, to restrain her, you don't have to worry too much about it. Others may not know your opportunity, but how could this Xiao not know it? Your strength will surpass hers sooner or later. When Ao Zhan heard this news, he was both surprised and happy. He didn't dare to believe what Xiao Hua had said. But when he looked at Yuanya, who was not far away, he didn't know what Yuanya was like before, but now, Yuanya was far beyond his reach. If Yuanya was like this, why couldn't Jiang Hong be like this? Why couldn't Jiang Hong and Lu Yi's descendants do the same? The assistance that Xiao Hua spoke of wasn't just assistance, it was simply the main force. Ao Zhan took a deep breath, bowed, and said, Junior, thanks Master Long. Now that I think about it, getting to know Master Long was really the wisest decision of this junior's life. There's a saying in the human race, if you treat me like a country knight, I'll definitely repay you like a country knight. Xiao Hua smiled and said, although this sentence is not appropriate to use here, it still means returning a plum for a peach. This Xiao is still willing to leave his trust to a brave man. Yes, this junior understands. This junior will also carefully deal with the worries that senior has mentioned. This kind of thing isn't rare in my dragon race. Senior, please rest assured. Ao Zhan carefully agreed to the matter regarding Jiang Hong. Also, Xiao Hua transmitted again, this Xiao wants Little White Dragon to be the master of the West Sea. Little White Dragon. Ao Zhan stared blankly, then smiled and said, Senior, rest assured. This is what Little White Dragon deserves. At the same time, it's also what this junior wants. This junior can only step into the Dragon Palace Hall after controlling part of the power of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Senior's thoughts coincide with this junior's. Ha! Xiao Hua laughed loudly, then it's decided. Xiao Hua. Daoist Xiao. While Xiao Hua was laughing, another human cultivator flew over from the distance. Before they even got close, a woman's voice was already heard. Amidst the surprise, there was uncertainty, and even more weakness. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and looked over. It was really Xian Songzi and Daoist Jingting, the two seventh tribulation scattered nascent souls, bringing Sun Kong, Zhang Daoran, Zhai Xingzi, and Gusu Qiudi over. At this moment, Gusu Qiudi was nestled in Zhai Xingzi's arms. Her face was bright red and her eyes were as bright as stars. Xiao Hua's heart warmed. With a smile on his face, he floated over to welcome them. Seeing that Xiao Hua had only taken a step and his figure had already crossed 100 miles, he stood still and cupped his hands, saying, I thank the four of you for coming to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm to help. He, I knew it. Gusu Qiudi's face was pressed against Zhai Xingzi's chest. She didn't directly answer Xiao Hua, but instead said coquettishly, although Xiao Hua is already the most powerful cultivator of the three continents, he definitely won't change from the past. Zhai Xingzi smiled bitterly. This Xiao Hua in front of them wasn't the same nascent soul cultivator as them in the past. He was a human Mahayana cultivator. A human Mahayana cultivator. Just thinking about it made Zhai Xingzi's blood boil. He didn't know how many years it had been since a Taoist Mahayana cultivator appeared in the three continents. But now, he saw and knew that this Mahayana cultivator was a fellow cultivator who had gone through life and death with him. How could he not be moved? Zhai Xingzi patted Gusu Qiudi's back. He stopped with Xian Songzi and said respectfully, Zhai Xingzi greets Daoist Xiao. Gusu Qiudi moved away from Zhai Xingzi with difficulty. She raised her hand slightly and said with a smile, I'm heavily injured and can't greet you properly. Please forgive me, Daoist Xiao. Master. Xian Songzi stopped and let go of Zhai Xingzi. He bowed and saluted. Daoist Jingting also called out and stood together with Xian Songzi. Zhang Daoran greets Senior Xiao. Zhang Daoran now prostrated himself in admiration of Xiao Hua. That day, he still wanted to join hands with Xiao Hua, Sun Kong, and Zhai Xingzi to become the four heroes of the hidden immortal continent. But now, he couldn't even become Xiao Hua's disciple. How could he be compared to the four heroes? Greetings Daoist Xiao. Sun Kong didn't think as much as Zhang Daoran, but he also saluted respectfully. He didn't dare to be negligent. Xiao Hua smiled and took out a medicinal pill from his bosom. He handed it to Zhai Xingzi and said, this is a medicinal pill refined by me. It's also useful for Confucian cultivators. Fellow Daoist Gusu only forcefully activated her true qi and suffered a backlash from my Daoist magic tool. Her meridians were only damaged. You don't have to worry too much. Fellow Daoist Gusu took my disciple's medicinal pill earlier. I'm afraid it's not quite right for her. Oh, this Daoist magic tool should be the one you obtained from Senior Tsang Langzi's cave, right? Hehe, Daoist's eyes are indeed sharp. With one look, you can tell that I was injured by a Daoist magic tool. That magic tool is Senior Tsang Langzi's. Gusu Qiudi was overjoyed. When Zhai Xingzi brought the medicinal pill over, she swallowed it in one gulp. Immediately, clouds surged around her body. Wisps of righteous qi appeared out of nowhere and slowly entered her body. My humble wife is like this. Daoist, please forgive me. Seeing Gusu Qiudi take the medicinal pill in front of Xiao Hua and heal her injuries, Zhai Xingzi was afraid that Xiao Hua would be angry and hurriedly explained. How could Xiao Hua put on airs in front of his old friend? He waved his hand and said, fellow Daoists, there's no need to be so polite. Fellow Daoist Gusu, the sooner you take the medicinal pill, the better. Moreover, you and I are old friends. Normally, you can just call me Daoist. Moreover, you three fellow Daoists came to the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm from afar to save me. I can see this favor clearly. We don't dare. Zhang Daoran hurriedly replied, back then, we received a lot of Daoists' kindness. In these hundreds of years, we didn't have the chance to repay it. Since Daoist Wen Ting is in trouble, how can we just stand by and watch? Although our cultivation is limited, for fellow Daoist, we are willing to go through water and tread on fire. Damn it. It's a pity that before we could even get close to Bai Qingyu, we were schemed against by the Xianhuang order. We were almost killed by them several times. Exalted Sun Kong said with lingering fear. Zhai Xingzi also shook his head with a bitter smile. Indeed. We were only thinking about the obstruction of the demon race in the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. We never thought that the Xianhuang order of the Confucian cultivator would use the news of Daoist being suppressed to kill us. Now that I think about it, it was really dangerous. We wanted to help but were powerless. In the end, if Daoist didn't help us, we would have already lost our lives in Bai Qingyu. Zhang Daoran sighed. Xiao Hua said loudly, there's no need for strength. It's enough as long as you have the heart. Fellow Daoists, I will remember this favor. If you have any difficulties in the future, please don't hesitate to find me. The three were overjoyed. This was the promise of the supreme cultivator of the three continents. The three bowed to express their thanks. When Zhai Xingzi stood up, he said somewhat embarrassedly, Daoist, I have a presumptuous request. I hope Daoist can agree. Oh. It's okay. Fellow Daoist, just say it. As long as I can do it. Xiao Hua was startled and hurriedly replied. He. Sun Kong and Zhang Daoran both laughed. Zhai Xingzi's face was red. He looked at Gusu Churi, who was recuperating not far away, and said, Chiu has followed I for hundreds of years. Taoist disciples don't care about this, but Confucian cultivators can't. Chiu doesn't say it, but there's always a knot in her heart. I want to ask Taoist, to accompany I to the Gusu family, to ask for their hand in marriage. Oh, this. Hearing this, Xiaohua's expression became extremely awkward. He shook his head and said, I'm a Taoist cultivator. Although I'm a Mahayana cultivator, it doesn't conform to the rules of Confucian cultivators. Zhai Xingzi was extremely depressed. He didn't expect Xiaohua to not agree. He could only smile and said, if Taoist feels that it's not suitable, why don't you send a disciple? Those disciples are also Taoist cultivators. They're not suitable. Xiaohua waved his hand and said. Ah. Zhai Xingzi opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Xiaohua looked at Zhai Xingzi's anxious expression and said slowly, how about this, when we return to Hidden Immortal Continent, I'll ask a literary star to accompany you to the Gusu family to ask for their hand in marriage. How about that? What? Literary star. Zhai Xingzi was dumbstruck. He stuttered even more, Taoist knows which family head. I don't know any family head. Xiaohua smiled and said, this literary star is I's good friend. Don't worry. When the time comes, not only a literary star, but also a literary saint and great grandmaster. I will give you hundreds of them. Let's see if the Gusu family dares to not agree. Oh, right, do you still want the immortal soldiers of the Immortal Palace to open the way for you? I'll ask the Immortal Palace's true monarch to send 100,000 over, how about that? Chapter 44:15. Alright. Zhai Xingzi was ecstatic to the point of being dumbstruck, and he could only nod his head vigorously. He really didn't dare to believe Xiaohua's words, but the problem was that Xiaohua was a Grand Ascension stage human race cultivator, so how could he be joking around with him? Cough cough. Zhang Daoran coughed and said with a smile, forget about the immortal army from the Immortal Palace, we are Taoist cultivators. Even though Taoist is already a human Mahayana realm cultivator, Confucian cultivators are still the rulers of the Hidden Immortal Continent. If Taoist Wen Xing comes out, the Gusu family will have some face, so there's no need to cause any trouble. That's right. Zhai Xingzi came to his senses and hurriedly said, Taoist Wen is a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator, so it's best if you don't attract the attention of the Immortal Palace. When we return to the Hidden Immortal Continent, we'll deal with this matter. Xiaohua was also overjoyed, and he said, Confucian cultivators have 4 joys in life, which are rain after a long drought, meeting an old friend in a foreign land, the wedding night, and the nomination for the golden role. Today, we've met in a foreign land, and in the future, Taoist Zhai Xingzi, this is the most joys in life. Huh, that's right. Zhang Daoran and Sun Kong both smiled as they congratulated star-plucking child. Meanwhile, Xiaohua's smile was filled with bitterness. He very naturally thought of Fairy Jing, a woman who had also drunk the water of forgetfulness, and also surpassed the water of forgetfulness through bitter thinking. Her experience was similar to Gusu Churi's, but the ending was also completely different. Fellow Taoists, please wait on the side. When we return to the Hidden Immortal Continent, I will accompany you for a chat. Xiaohua looked into the distance and saw that the 2 groups of Fortune Gate's disciples had yet to appear, but their killing intent had already soared to the sky, spreading in all directions. Xiaohua smiled and said to Zhai Xingzi and the others. Yes. The 3 of them didn't dare to say anything, and they surrounded Gusu Churi, waiting for the Fortune Gate's army to return. After half a cup of tea's time, killing intent surged like a tidal wave, and the 200,000-strong army had already appeared. At the front of the army, 2 lightning boats flew over. When they were 100 li away from Xiaohua, they stopped, and two groups of people flew down from the boats. Xiao Hua's gaze swept over the crowd, and at the same time, there was a smile on his face, but at the same time, there was surprise in his eyes. This was because Ing Pe and his clansmen from the Loi Merchant Union flew down from the left lightning ship while Xiong Yi, His Highness Lan, Daoist Master Qing Su, Venerable Master Fan Tian, Ao Zhantian, Su Tingzi, and the others flew down from the right lightning ship. When Ing Pe saw Xiong Yi flying out, he deliberately slowed down to let Xiong Yi and the others greet Xiao Hua first. Before he could even get close, Royal Highness Lan fell to his knees with tears streaming down his face. "Master, this disciple deserves to die. Please punish this disciple." Xiao Hua was shocked. He raised his hand and grabbed Royal Highness Lan from a distance. Royal Highness Lan felt a flash in front of his eyes. He didn't feel anything at all. His figure had already appeared in front of Xiao Hua. His heart couldn't help but tighten. "What's wrong?" Xiao Hua hurriedly asked, "Did something big happen?" "Master." Xiong Yi also hurriedly flew over, but he was still far away from Xiao Hua. He also shouted, "This disciple also deserves to die. Master, please punish me." "Oh. What's going on?" Xiao Hua had a bad feeling in his heart. This disciple is incompetent. Xiong Yi glanced at the pale-faced Royal Highness Lan and sighed inwardly. He rushed to say, "This disciple led close to 30,000 disciples to Bai Qingyu to save Master, but, on the way, we lost close to 40%. In this grand array, we lost another 10%. Close to half of the disciples have fallen. This disciple asks Master to punish him." Xiao Hua raised his head and looked up at the sky. His eyes were filled with grief. He had already mentally prepared himself for this outcome. After all, the Fortune Gates disciples in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range couldn't be compared to the Fortune Gates disciples in the Shenhua continent. The difference in strength was too great. At most, they were in the Golden Core realm. Coming to the 1,000 demonic sacred grounds, they weren't even enough to fill the gaps between the demonic beast race's teeth. However, the loyalty of these Fortune Gates disciples in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range wasn't any worse than the Fortune Gates disciples in the Shenhua continent. They relied on these tens of thousands of disciples to rush to Bai Qingyu. Xiao Hua had already used the Netherworld Origin Force to investigate. He could absorb souls that could be absorbed into the inside of the Netherworld, regardless of whether they were from the demonic beast race or the human race. However, according to Xiong Yi, 40% of the disciples had died on the way to Bai Qingyu. Their souls had most likely entered the Netherworld. Xiao Hua couldn't find them at all. Even if Xiao Hua wanted to arrange for them to re-enter the Fortune Gate, he couldn't. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Xiao Hua retracted his gaze and looked at Prince Lan. He asked, "What crime did you commit?" This disciple didn't protect junior brother Chang Yu well. On the way to Bai Qingyu, junior brother Chang Yu encountered the demonic beast race. In order to save this disciple, junior brother Chang Yu perished together with the demonic beast race. Prince Lan didn't dare to raise his head. His upper body was prostrated in midair as he wept. See. Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of air. He couldn't believe this news. After all, he had taken in so many disciples, and none of them had died. Even during the war with the devil race in the ruins, Yuanya and the others didn't suffer such a tragedy. Damn it! Hearing this grievous news, Xiao Hua was furious. He regretted letting Bai Qingyu, Shrouding Sky Ridge, and Ancient Bell Mountain go. Tell me the cause of this matter in full detail. Xiao Hua gritted his teeth and said word by word. Prince Lan complied and recounted the matter once again. It was exactly the same as what he had told Xiong Yi. Hearing this, Xiao Hua released his divine sense and looked in that direction. It was a pity that his battle with Bai Xian had involved too much area. The place where Chang Yu had died had long since disappeared. He couldn't find any traces at all. After Master left, junior brother Chang Yu cultivated diligently. Before he died, he was already an early nascent soul cultivator. Deep sorrow appeared on Xiong Yi's face. When he came to Bai Qingyu this time, this disciple and junior brother Lan advised him not to come. We told him to stay at the soaring Dragon Mountain range with senior brother Li Xiang. After all, the Thousand Demons sacred realm is too dangerous and his strength is still shallow. But he said that Master had given him a new life. Even if he dies, he wants to die in front of Master. Sigh. Hearing this, Xiaohua felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. To be honest, his feelings for Chang Yu and Wu Tian were not as deep as Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiang. It was even more incomparable to Lu Yi and the other disciples. However, it was these disciples who knew how to repay the kindness of a drop of water with a gushing spring. They knew how to be grateful. They knew that they would die if they came to Bai Qingyu, but they still rushed to meet their deaths. How could he repay their gratitude? Even if he had massacred Bai Qingyu and killed nearly 1,000,000 demons, the lives of his disciples could not be redeemed. All of a sudden, Xiaohua's heart was filled with regret. He regretted all the cover-up he had done in order to uncover the mastermind. If he had stood out earlier, interrogated Shui Mingzi earlier, and rushed to Bai Qingyu earlier, Chang Yu would not have died. Nearly half of the Fortune Gate's disciples on the soaring Dragon Mountain range would not have died. Taoist Master Xiao, please restrain your grief. Seeing Xiao Hua's complicated expression, Taoist Master Qing Su hurried forward and bowed. Although your sect's disciples have suffered some casualties, they died defending Taoist Master's reputation. They died in the battle with the demons. Their deaths are the victory of our human race, the price of our human race's dignity. Their deaths are great. Their deaths will certainly be recorded in the annals of history. When our Tao Gate rises in the future, their deaths will be recited by thousands of generations of Tao Gate's disciples. AI. Hearing Taoist Master Qing Su's words, Xiaohua nodded slightly. He also understood in his heart that it was too late to say anything now. Regret was useless. Moreover, regardless of whether he chose to cover it up or not, many things would still happen. Things in the world would never go according to one's thoughts. It was impossible for his disciples to never die. Wait for me to rise. Xiaohua waved his hand to let Xiong Yi and Prince Lan rise. He said solemnly, none of you did anything wrong. What was wrong, was the ambition and selfish desires of some people. You were too weak to resist the schemes of others. It was inevitable that you had to pay some price. Yes, Master. Xiong Yi stood up, still full of guilt. Although Prince Lan's face was sad, he was happy in his heart. How is the soaring Dragon Mountain range? Xiaohua asked again. Xiong Yi said, when we came here, there was nothing wrong. However, there are too many eyes and ears in the Immortal Palace. Disciples trading with the Luo Yi Merchant Union and going out for training will fall into the Immortal Palace's eyes and ears. According to the latest news from the Luo Yi Merchant Union, the Immortal Palace might be going on a crusade against the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Master, we have to hurry back. Prince Lan hurriedly advised, with these 200,000 Fortune Gate disciples, we won't be afraid of the Immortal Palace's crusade in the future. Don't worry. Xiaohua nodded and said, Wang Dianfei, Yu Zhongquan, and the others have already brought a group of disciples back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. With them there, the soaring Dragon Mountain range will be safe. Moreover, times have changed. The Immortal Palace might not go on a crusade against the soaring Dragon Mountain range. That's good. Xiong Yi raised his eyebrows and said, this disciple was worried that senior brother Li Xiang would be unable to support himself in the Fortune Gate Tao Palace. After Xiong Yi finished speaking, Prince Lan pointed at Taoist Master Qing Su and said, Master, this is Taoist Master Qing Su. Master should know them. They came to Bai Qingyu to rescue Master under the Grand Mist Ancestor's orders. However, they did not send a message to us and only arrived just before the battle began. It's fine. It's better to have a heart than not. It's better to come than not. Xiao Hua forced a smile and said, "This Xiao thanks the Grand Mist Ancestor for his concern. Daoist Qing Su, please bring this Xiao's gratitude back." "Yes, this junior will definitely do so." Daoist Master Qing Su was very happy to see Xiao Hua still calling him Daoist. He bowed and said, "When this junior met senior for the first time, I already said that the ancestor has made it his mission to revitalize the Dao sect. He will treat all Dao sect's cultivators as his disciples." When this junior reported senior's matter to the ancestor attached great importance to it. Later, didn't this junior pay a special visit to senior? This time, when the ancestor heard that senior was in trouble, he didn't hesitate and prepared to come personally. However, many of the ancestor's friends dissuaded him. They believed that if the ancestor showed himself, he would be attacked by the Immortal Palace and the Lightning Sound Temple. This was not appropriate for the Dao sect in the 3 continents. Under their death persuasion, the ancestor had no choice but to give up his original plan. That's why he sent I and a dozen other Daoists to rescue senior. Chapter 44:16. At this point, Daoist Master Qing Su's face was filled with surprise. He looked at Xiao Hua and asked tentatively, "Who knew? Senior's cultivation was actually so deep. Although we came, we couldn't help senior at all. Moreover, we had to rely on senior's disciples to save us." "Oh, right, senior is probably a tribulation-passing cultivator of our human race now, right?" Xiao Hua naturally understood that the tribulation Daoist Master Qing Su mentioned was different from the one on Dawn Rain mainland. He pondered for a moment and didn't hide it. He smiled and said, "I was lucky enough to have reached the Grand Ascension stage." Daoist Master Qing Su had met Xiao Hua 200 years ago and had some understanding of Xiao Hua's strength. He couldn't believe that Xiao Hua had surpassed him by so much in just a few hundred years. Moreover, he had only met Xiao Hua once before following the Fortune Gate disciples to attack the heaven-concealing ridge and ancient Bell Mountain. The highest cultivation among the Fortune Gate disciples was close to the lower 8th grade. Therefore, Daoist Master Qing Su guessed that Xiao Hua was a tribulation-passing cultivator. However, he still underestimated Xiao Hua's strength. He couldn't help but exclaim, how is this possible?" At this point, he immediately realized that he had been rude and quickly bowed. "Senior, please don't blame me." Junior was just too surprised. Junior didn't expect senior's cultivation to have reached the heavens. "Don't blame me, don't blame me. You and I are old acquaintances. No wonder you are surprised." Xiao Hua was already numb to this kind of surprise. He smiled and waved his hand. He looked at Master Heaven Flipping Master and said, "These fellow Daoists are unfamiliar, I.O." Daoist Master Qing Su slapped his forehead and said with a smile, "I was just thinking about talking to senior. I was so surprised by the miracle of senior's cultivation progress that I forgot to introduce him. He is also a disciple of Ancestor. His name is Master Heaven Flipping Master." This is, before he could finish, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "So you are Master Heaven Flipping Master. This Xiao has heard of your name for a long time, but I have never seen you before." Xiao Hua's words sounded like a compliment, but in fact, there was a reason for it. That year on the Great Snow Mountain, he met Xin, who had disguised herself as Xin, and the little monk Ci Hui, who was the physical body of Manjushri Bodhisattva of Namo Great Wisdom, who had yet to attain fruition. They even went to look for Fan Tian Venerable together. It was at Fan Tian Venerable's abode that Xiao Hua and the others met Gu Zhen, the Buddhist sect's protector. Master Heaven Flipping Master didn't know these secrets. Junior's Heaven Flipping Master greets Senior. "Senior, Junior's cultivation, how can Junior compare with Senior's cultivation with Senior?" He. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. He then met with the other cultivators of the Tao sect. In the end, Taoist Qing Su said respectfully, "Senior, before we came here, the ancestor said that if we succeed in the rescue, we must invite Senior to see the ancestor. Now, Junior doesn't dare to ask Senior to go personally, but I hope Senior can agree. Once we return, we will report to Ancestor and ask Ancestor to choose a time and place to meet Senior. Now, Senior and Ancestor are the only supreme cultivators in our Tao sect. Both seniors are the pillars of our Tao sect. The revival of our Tao sect will fall on the shoulders of both seniors. Juniors are looking forward to the two seniors joining hands." Xiaohua had already seen the face of the Grand Mist Ancestor when he had just arrived in the Three Mainlands. He wasn't interested in this kind of ugly cultivator, even if this cultivator had taken it upon himself to revive the Tao sect. However, Huang Xiaolong was clear that he could avoid meeting the Grand Mist Ancestor when his cultivation was still low. Now that his cultivation was on par with the Grand Mist Ancestor, he was bound to meet the Grand Mist Ancestor. Since that was the case, Xiaohua was looking forward to seeing Grand Mist Ancestor's expression when they met. You can report this to fellow Taoist Grand Mist. Xiaohua smiled and said, "When we return to the hidden immortal mainland, you can arrange the meeting with Xiong Yi." "Many thanks, Senior." Taoist Master Qing Su was happy to hear Xiaohua agree. "Since that's the case, we will take our leave and report this to Ancestor. There's no need to rush. We will go together." Xiaohua smiled and said, "After all, there are many demons in the Thousand Demons sacred realm. Bai Qingyu's actions will definitely attract the attention of many demon kings. If you go back alone, there will be many obstructions. And then we will respectfully accept. We will borrow Senior's reputation to avoid some dangers." Taoist Master Qing Su said with a smile, "Junior will not disturb Senior. Junior will go and talk to fellow Taoist Xiong Yi and fellow Taoist Lan about future matters." Xiaohua agreed with a smile and left Xiong Yi and Lan with Taoist Master Qing Su and Venerable Master Qing Su. Seeing that there was no one in front of Xiaohua, Ao Zhantian hurriedly brought Su Tingzi and the other cultivators over. Before they even got close, Ao Zhantian said respectfully, "Junior greets Master Xiao." Su Tingzi panicked and said in a low voice, "Junior didn't know that Senior was Yulong. Please forgive Junior for offending you along the way." Pahong and the other cultivators apologized like Su Tingzi. They were all terrified. After all, they had said many bad things about Aoe. However, Su Tingzi was more remorseful than panic, especially when he heard Ao Zhantian call Xiaohua Master Xiao. Previously, at Yaotai Mountain, Xiaohua wanted to take him as his disciple because of Su Tingzi's help. Unfortunately, Su Tingzi was too cautious and was afraid that Xiaohua's power would bring disaster to him. Now, Su Tingzi was still at the mid-nascent soul stage, but Xiaohua was no longer at the fifth stage. How could a human Mahayana realm cultivator accept a mid-nascent soul stage cultivator as his disciple? Especially when this cultivator had rejected him directly. At this moment, Su Tingzi wished he could go back 200 years and kneel in front of Xiaohua and acknowledge him as his master. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't make things difficult for these juniors. He smiled and helped Su Tingzi and the others up. What happened in the past is already in the past. Don't mind it too much. If I wasn't with you all, I wouldn't have known about Xue Mingzi's evil intentions. Therefore, not only are you all not at fault, you all have contributed greatly. Moreover, I'm very happy that you all came to Bai Qingyu. From today onwards, all of your previous vows are null and void." Pahong and the others were even more disappointed. They wanted to serve Xiaohua for another 1,000 years. Unfortunately, Xiaohua no longer cared about the loyalty of these nascent soul stage cultivators. Actually, Pahong and the others wanted to mention serving Xiaohua, but they didn't expect Xiaohua to block their path before they could even speak. Even if they wanted to speak again, it was impossible. "Many thanks, Senior." Although Pahong and the others thanked him, their tone was filled with disappointment. Just as they were about to fly to the side, Xiao Hua suddenly smiled and said, "I already know that you all wanted to come to Bai Qingyu to rescue me. Now that my fortune gate wants to spread its influence on the hidden immortal mainland, we need a lot of disciples. If you are willing, you can find a suitable master among my fortune gate disciples. As long as you find one, I will let them accept you as their disciples. How about it?" "Many thanks, Senior." Pahong and the others thanked him again. This time, their tone was filled with ecstasy. Xiao Hua was already a grand ascension stage cultivator, how bad could his disciples be? Ao Zhantian and Su Tingzi, stay behind. The rest of you can go first. After I make arrangements, you all will return to the hidden immortal mainland with the Fortune Gate disciples. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, Su Tingzi's heart was filled with joy. After Pahong and the others left, Ao Zhantian frowned and said, "Master Xiao, you saw what these cultivators did. They colluded with Shui Mingzi. Although they don't have any intention of harming Master Xiao, I still feel that they are unreliable." Xiao Hua nodded and smiled. "I understand. I was just about to ask you, how did you deal with Shui Mingzi's matter?" "Of course, I killed him," Ao Zhantian said without hesitation. "That bastard colluded with the ancient Bell Mountain's demonic beasts. Not only did he want to harm Master Xiao, he also coveted the Dao Gate's forces on the hidden immortal mainland. If I don't kill him, who else should I kill? Other than him?" Xiao Hua smiled and said, "It seems like there are still 4 cultivators missing. And those 4 have already been persuaded by Shui Mingzi and are preparing to join the ancient Bell Mountain. When they reach Bai Qingyu, they will attack Master Xiao and nullify the blood oath they made." Ao Zhantian explained. "As for the rest, they are still hesitating, so I didn't make a move." "Isn't that the case?" Xiao Hua smiled. When faced with a life-threatening situation, anyone would have selfish thoughts. As long as they still have a conscience in their hearts, I feel that they can still be saved. Moreover, under this kind of test, I feel that I have let down the Fortune Gate's disciples and all of you, not to mention them. What's the harm in giving them another chance? Senior is too kind. Ao Zhantian smiled bitterly. This junior can't do such a thing. Junior likes to be decisive when killing, and doesn't want to be sloppy. As long as there's an opportunity to make a move, I will immediately make a move." "That's good." Xiao Hua smiled. "If I can't do it, I'll leave it to you." No problem." Ao Zhantian didn't think much about Xiao Hua's words and casually agreed. However, just as he finished speaking, he suddenly understood something. He looked at Xiao Hua and couldn't believe his ears. When Xiao Hua nodded slightly, he turned around and knelt in the air. He kowtowed and said, Disciple Ao Zhantian greets Master. Get up." After Ao Zhantian kowtowed 9 times, Xiao Hua helped Ao Zhantian up and said, "Master has already taught you the Dao Gate's magic arts. Moreover, you came to Bai Qingyu to rescue Master, and you didn't forget your original intentions in the face of Shui Mingzi's temptation. Master naturally won't disappoint you. In the future, you have to deal with the Fortune Gate's affairs with Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and the others. Do more things that Master doesn't like to do." "Yes, Master," disciple understands. "Rest assured." Ao Zhantian had always called Xiao Hua Master Xiao and had long regarded Xiao Hua as his master. Now that his dream had come true, he couldn't stop smiling. "Congratulations, Senior Ao." Su Tingzi's mouth was filled with bitterness as he cupped his fists and congratulated Xiao Hua. Chapter 44:17. Fuck. Ao Zhantian was overjoyed. When he saw Su Tingzi congratulating him, he scolded Su Tingzi, "Master asked you to stay, but didn't you follow me and fight Shui Mingzi without any regard for your life?" Why don't you understand what master means? Do you still need master to say it out loud? Hurry up and thank master. Ao Zhantian's words struck Su Tingzi like a bolt of lightning. He looked at Xiao Hua in a daze and opened his mouth. He wanted to ask if Ao Zhantian was telling the truth, but he couldn't say anything. PFFF. Ao Zhantian kicked Su Tingzi's leg, and Su Tingzi's knees went soft, and he fell to his knees. Only then did he come to his senses. He cried and kowtowed, "Disciple Su Tingzi greets master. I was blind and missed the opportunity. Disciple thanks master for not abandoning me." Similarly, after Su Tingzi kowtowed 9 times, Xiao Hua helped him up and said with a smile, "What's lost is lost. It will never return. If you hadn't stood out from the crowd that day, master definitely wouldn't have given you another chance. However, since you've done it, the opportunity has come. Master won't say anything else. From now on, follow Ao Zhantian and take care of the affairs of the Fortune Gate." "Yes, master. Disciple understands." Su Tingzi was overjoyed but also a little ashamed. After replying, he followed Ao Zhantian to greet Xiong Yi and the other Fortune Gate disciples. Xiong Yi and the others saw Ao Zhantian and Su Tingzi formally acknowledging Xiao Hua as master, and they all congratulated them with smiles. Ingpa waited for a while, but no one came forward. Xiao Hua personally sent a voice transmission, "Fellow immortal Ingpa, why aren't you coming over?" Only then did Ingpa rush over with a few elders. He bowed and said, "Junior greets Master Xiao. Wait for me." Xiao Hua looked at Ingpa's respectful attitude and the many elders behind him. He smiled and said, "I'm still the same old Xiao. It's just that I'm stronger now. This is more beneficial for the cooperation between the Fortune Gate and the Fortune Gate. You don't need to think too much. Yes, Teacher Xiao will forever be our clan's Teacher Xiao." Ingpa nodded. "No matter what realm you are at." Finished speaking, Ingpa hurriedly took out a beast skin and handed it to Xiao Hua. "Master Xiao, Junior has received news that the Immortal Palace may be going on a punitive expedition to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range in the near future. Previously in the war, Junior has already informed Xiong Yi. However, it was too chaotic at that time, so I couldn't explain it clearly. This is the beast skin used to transmit the message. Senior, please check it carefully. Send these Fortune Gate disciples back. If the news is true, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate disciples will suffer more losses." Xiao Hua was very happy to see that Ingpa did not say anything and hurriedly told him about the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. He took the animal skin and looked at it carefully. After calculating the time, he knew that it was not long before he left the Great Snow Mountain Range. At that time, Sun Jian had not left the Shenhua continent. At this time, if there were no accidents, Sun Jian should have returned to the Immortal Palace. According to Sun Jian's knowledge, he must have reported this matter to the Immortal Emperor. How could the Immortal Emperor hastily send troops to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range? Therefore, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "This news was sent a long time ago. If the Immortal Palace had received the latest news from our Fortune Gate, they might not be in such a hurry to send troops to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Moreover, one day in the Immortal Palace is equivalent to 1 year on the surface. Once this news travels back and forth between the Immortal Palace and the so-called court discussion, there won't be any results for several years. At that time, we would have already returned to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Who would be afraid of them? Teacher Xiao is right." Ingpa nodded. Junior is afraid that the Immortal Palace would not have received the exact news and send troops rashly. The Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's troops are insufficient at this time, which would make us regret it. And, before this Xiao came to the Thousand Demons' sacred domain, I had already sent my disciples back to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Xiao Hua smiled. With their cultivation of 7th or 8th grade essence force, they won't have any pressure to deal with those immortal soldiers and immortal generals. When Yingpe heard that Xiao Hua's disciples had cultivation of 8th grade essence force, a trace of envy appeared in his eyes. He smiled apologetically. If that is the case, then Junior is relieved. Junior will send my clansmen back to gather information so that I can inform Teacher Xiao of the latest situation. This matter is not urgent. Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand, asking, Yingpe, how many of your people died this time? Alright, Teacher Xiao knows. Yingpe smiled apologetically. My clan is of the demon race, so coming to Bai Qingyu is not considered difficult. However, we lost 10% of our people when fighting under Bai Qingyu's command, which is 100 times better than what we expected. When you came to Bai Qingyu, did you not plan to go back? Xiao Hua asked. Yingpe nodded. I won't hide this matter from Teacher Xiao. What the other clansmen thought, Junior, is like this. The matters of the Endless Merchant Union have already been handed over to others, but the position of Patriarch has not been pushed out. Oh. Why? Xiao Hua was startled and asked curiously. Yingpe said proudly, because this time, Junior is leading 6,000 clansmen. If all of them are unable to return, my clan will probably not exist in the 3 continents. Junior can choose whether or not to take the position of Patriarch. Xiao Hua's heart trembled, and he bowed, fellow immortal, this Xiao will definitely repay you for your kindness. When the human Grand Ascension stage expert bowed, Yingpe and the other elders' knees went soft, and they almost fell to their knees. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over them and supported them. Yingpe could only cry out, Teacher Xiao has done a lot for my clan. If it weren't for Teacher Xiao, my clan and the Endless Merchant Union would not exist. My clan is willing to live and die with Teacher Xiao. Good, in that case. My Fortune Gate and the Endless Merchant Union have formed a life and death alliance. Xiao Hua raised his right hand and placed it in front of Yingpe. As long as my Fortune Gate exists, the Endless Merchant Union exists. Yingpe's eyes lit up, and he slowly raised his right claw. There was still a lot of mane on his right claw, and it shone brightly in the night sky. Yingpe said, my Endless Merchant Union is willing to form a life and death alliance with the Fortune Gate. I, Yingpe, represent the Endless Merchant Union and swear that as long as my Endless Merchant Union exists, the Fortune Gate exists. The human Grand Ascension stage expert's hand and the demonic beast's claw collided. Due to the presence of the mane, there wasn't much of a sound when they clapped hands. However, this was a promise that was as solid as gold, and a sincere alliance was formed before everyone's eyes. Yingpe, thank your clansmen on my behalf. We're now allies, and if there's a chance in the future, we'll meet again at the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. If there's anything in the Thousand Beast Holy Realm, feel free to tell Xiong Yi or Fu Jiwen. Xiao Hua smiled, and said, as for other matters, we'll discuss them in detail after we return to the hidden immortal continent. I'm confident that I can help you build the Endless Merchant Union into a business union that's even more powerful than the Star-Plucking Tower. Yes, Junior understands. Junior thanks Teacher Xiao. Yingpe was ecstatic, and he bowed deeply to express his gratitude. He knew that with the support of Xiao Hua, a Grand Ascension stage human cultivator, and the Fortune Gate, an unprecedented Taoist sect, how could the trade union not surpass the Star-Plucking Pavilion? Of course, Yingpe also understood that the Endless Stream Merchant Union had long been tied to the Fortune Gate. If Xiao Hua and the Fortune Gate were to be attacked by Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sects, or if the ancient immortals and Buddhas joined forces to destroy the Tao, then his Endless Stream Merchant Union would not be able to survive. However, how bad could that outcome be compared to what he had prepared for the day before? All of you, go rest on the lightning boat. Xiao Hua helped Yingpe up with a smile, and said, we'll return to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range right away. Yes. Yingpe had just gotten up when he suddenly thought of something, and he hurriedly took out a universal bracelet. After searching through it for a moment, he took out a jade eye bracelet and respectfully handed it to Xiao Hua, and said, Teacher Xiao, there's something that Junior almost forgot. It's been over 200 years, and if Teacher Xiao hadn't mentioned the star-plucking tower, Junior would have really forgotten about it. Oh. What's the matter? Xiao Hua was taken aback, and he took the jade eye bracelet, but didn't immediately examine it. All right, I'll let Teacher Xiao know. Ingpa recalled a little and answered, that year, after Teacher Xiao left the Feather Spirit Bay, about 10 days later, a Confucian cultivator came to my Yazi auction to find Teacher Xiao. Junior was preparing for the auction, so I ignored him and pretended that I didn't know Teacher Xiao. That Confucian cultivator didn't say much, and only said that he came from the star-plucking tower, and that he had seen Teacher Xiao in the star-plucking tower, and was an old acquaintance of Teacher Xiao. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He naturally knew that Confucian cultivator must be the mysterious Professor Dushan Jundu, so he smiled and asked, did that Confucian cultivator leave his name? No. Ingpa shook his head, and said, Junior not only doesn't know his name, but now that I think about it, it seems that Junior can't remember his appearance. If Junior hadn't seen Teacher Xiao, Junior really wouldn't have remembered this matter. What else did he say? Xiao Hua was even more certain in his heart, and asked, you couldn't have also forgotten, right? No. Ingpo's eyes revealed surprise. Junior remembers everything he said even more clearly. He gave this jade eye bracelet to Junior, and said that Junior must give it to Teacher Xiao. He also said that, this matter is very important to him. Oh, right, he also asked Junior to say something to Teacher Xiao. What is it? Xiao Hua's brows were tightly knitted, and he was rather puzzled. This is your last chance, and you are his only hope. Ingpa looked at Xiao Hua, and said each word clearly. His tone was very serious, as if Dushan Jun had said it to Xiao Hua face to face. Hiss. Xiao Hua was shocked, and hurriedly asked, Ingpa, do you know about the Star Moon Palace? I know. Ingpa nodded. This kind of ancient ruin is very famous in the 3 continents, how could Junior not know? At this point, Ingpa somewhat understood, and said with a smile, is Senior talking about the appearance of the Star Moon Palace this time? Damn it. Xiao Hua already knew what was recorded in the jade eye bracelet, and he was also very sure that the person who went to the Luo-E Merchant Union to look for him was undoubtedly Dushan Jun. He slightly thought about it, and then secretly cursed. Previously at the star-plucking tower in Yuling Bay, Zhong Qiao once said that the Star Moon Palace might open within 200 years. However, this is only a guess, perhaps 2,000 years is also possible. Looks like, the Star Moon Palace hasn't opened yet. Dushan Jun is urging me to go to the Star Moon Palace to keep the appointment. Chapter 44:18. As expected, Ingpa continued, although the Star Moon Palace is an ancient ruin that many humans and demons in the 3 continents know about, the news of the Star Moon Palace's appearance is extremely secretive. Everyone wants to snatch the right to enter the Star Moon Palace. Everyone wants to search for opportunities in the Star Moon Palace. Once any human or demon obtains the news, they won't tell anyone else. It is only in the recent decades that the continuous merchant union has grown bigger and bigger, and the information it has obtained has also increased. This Junior is qualified to know some of the Star Moon Palace's secrets. However, even so, Junior only knows that the Star Moon Palace may appear in the Thousand Demons' Sacred Territories' easternmost region in a few months. As for the specific location and time, Junior is not particularly clear. Hearing this, Xiao Hua hesitated. He had thought that the Star Moon Palace had opened long ago, so he had thrown the matter of the Star Moon Palace to the back of his mind. According to his plan, he was prepared to bring the 200,000 Fortune Gate disciples back to the hidden immortal mainland. However, the Star Moon Palace was about to open, and he had previously made an agreement with Dushan Jun to follow him into the Star Moon Palace. Thus, he had no choice but to give up on returning to the hidden immortal mainland and head to the Thousand Demons' Sacred Territories' easternmost region. Of course, Xiao Hua was hesitant because he had returned to the 3 continents in a high-profile manner. First, he had defeated the 4 sea dragon kings and destroyed the southern sea dragon palace. Then, he had defeated the demonic beast race's 3 great sages and massacred by Qingyu. This would definitely attract the attention of the Immortal Palace. He could not guarantee that Sun Wu would be able to persuade the Immortal Emperor to not attack the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. If he went to the Star Moon Palace, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range might be destroyed. As for whether he would go to the Star Moon Palace, he did not hesitate at all. This was because Do Shanjun's help to him was simply too great. Not to mention the lightning cultivation method, not to mention the Crimson Infant technique, just the darkness breaking pill, void bearing pill, lotus connecting pill, and jade heaven pill that Do Shanjun had given Xiaohua in the stargazing pavilion in Yuling Bay, as well as the pill formulas that they had refined, had played an extremely crucial role in Xiaohua's cultivation. The darkness-breaking pill was a necessary pill to break through the bottleneck of the nascent soul realm and enter the spirit-severing realm. The void-bearing pill was used to break through to the void refinement realm, the lotus-connecting pill was used to break through to the unity realm, and the jade heaven pill was used to break through to the Ma-ascension realm. Without these medicinal pills, Xiaohua would have wasted the 20,000 years in the heavenly prison, and it would be impossible for him to reach the Desheng stage at this time. Moreover, Do Shanjun had already made it clear that he would not let Xiaohua do anything that went against Xiaohua's conscience. In fact, the most reassuring thing for Xiaohua was that Do Shanjun's words had revealed some secrets. The Grand Mist Ancestor, who was currently in the limelight, seemed to have received Do Shanjun's help, and the Grand Mist Ancestor did not repay Do Shanjun in the end. Even so, Do Shanjun did not withdraw his help to the Grand Mist Ancestor, nor did he punish the Grand Mist Ancestor. Do Shanjun was so magnanimous, presumably, he wouldn't have any schemes against Xiaohua. Xiaohua was also willing to work for such a person. In particular, the words that Do Shanjun asked Ing Bo to bring to Xiaohua caused Xiaohua's hesitation to quickly turn into a decision. Xiaohua understood that Do Shanjun's remarkable abilities far exceeded his imagination. Even though he was already a Desheng stage cultivator, he still had not completely comprehended the jade slip that Do Shanjun gave him. That Crimson Infant technique still had a large part of it that he did not understand. Previously, when Xiaohua was in the spirit-severing stage, he might not have understood, but now that he was a supreme cultivator of the 3 mainlands, how could he not know that this Crimson Infant technique was definitely not a cultivation technique from the cultivation world? In other words, Do Shanjun was definitely not a cultivator from the cultivation world. He must have come from the upper realm. Of course, whether this upper realm was the ruins or the desolate continent that Xiaohua had been to before, Xiaohua did not know. Since that was the case, Xiaohua could infer that if there were no rules of the 3 mainlands, Do Shanjun's strength would far surpass his by a lot. Xiaohua himself knew how to predict the future, and he would have some enlightenment on a whim, then Do Shanjun would definitely have an even more mysterious technique to divine the future. In that case, Do Shanjun did not put that sentence in the jade eyes, and instead asked Ing Pe to bring it to him. It meant that he wanted Xiaohua to take it seriously. Xiaohua even vaguely felt that the Do Shanjun from 200 years ago should have already divined that only Ing Pe could bring the jade eyes to him 200 years later, which was why he paid a visit to Ing Pe. Do Shanjun had already taken it seriously, and had already made it clear that this was his last chance, and Xiaohua was also his only hope, so how could Xiaohua not fulfill his promise? He. Xiaohua made a decision, and then smiled as he thought, even if Sun Jian can't persuade Immortal Emperor Gaochen, isn't there still Xian in the Immortal Palace? With such a big commotion in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, how could she not know? With a little advice from her, Immortal Emperor Gaochen will definitely think about it, and he will definitely understand the importance of this Xiao to Confucian cultivators. The so-called true Confucian, isn't it to search for the 5 Qis unification's cultivation technique, to search for the foundation of Xiantian true Qi? At this time, Ing Pe smiled and said, Master Xiao, in this junior's opinion, now that Master Zhao's cultivation is so profound, I'm afraid there's no need for you to go to the Star Moon Palace. On the other hand, the Fortune Gate's 7th and 8th grade disciples need to go to the Star Moon Palace to try their luck. Opportunities. Xiao Hua smiled. In terms of opportunities, could the Star Moon Palace compare to the ruins and the desolate continent? The opportunities that Lu Yi and the others had in the upper realm were many times more than the Star Moon Palace. Xiao Hua's own accumulation in the upper realm was only completed at the moment of life and death. Lu Yi and the others didn't know how long it would take for them to fully comprehend those accumulations, so there was really no need for them to go to the Star Moon Palace. Thus, Xiao Hua replied, "It's a pity that they've already rushed back to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, so I'm afraid they don't have time to go to the Star Moon Palace." That's true. Ingpa slapped his own forehead and smiled. The Soaring Dragon Mountain Range might be attacked by the Immortal Palace. This junior forgot about that. Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart moved, and he asked again, "What about nascent soul cultivators? Are they suitable to go to the Star Moon Palace?" "Of course they're suitable." Ingpa smiled and said, "The 7th or 8th grade essence force that this junior mentioned in the previous 3 continents referred to the Confucian cultivators and the demonic beast race. How could there be 7th or 8th grade essence force cultivators in the Tao sect? Only 3rd or 4th grade essence force cultivators would go. It's just that there are very few Tao sect cultivators who know this kind of secret information." "All right." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Ask the elders in the clan to return to the Thunder Ship first, I have something to tell you." Seeing that Xiao Hua had something to entrust to him, Ingpo was extremely happy and led the elders back to the Thunder Ship. After Ingpo left, Xiao Hua asked Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, Ao Zhantian, Su Tingzi, and the other nascent soul disciples to come over. After thinking for a while, he also called Zhai Xingzi and the others over. Everyone didn't know what was going on, so they stood at the side and listened respectfully. After Ingpa returned, Xiao Hua spoke, "I have something to discuss with all of you, and I want to hear your opinions." Xiong Yi was surprised. If Prince Lan took advantage of this opportunity to command troops, not only would he be able to build a good relationship with the disciples at the 7th or 8th grade, he would also be able to occupy a better position before the new Fortune Gate structure was clear. Moreover, Prince Lan was looking forward to the Immortal Palace's punitive expedition. He understood that the immortal soldiers and generals that could come on the expedition were at the 4th grade at most. In front of these 200,000 ferocious beasts, they were just appetizers. If he could command troops, it would be a great merit. When Xiong Yi returned from the Star Moon Palace, how could Xiong Yi be ranked ahead of him? It could be said that this was the opportunity that Prince Lan had been dreaming of. As for the opportunity in the Star Moon Palace, Prince Lan could see clearly. Not to mention the risks, the so-called opportunity might not be much better than the Fortune Gates. Not to mention, with the authority to command troops and speak in the sect's affairs, he would also have cultivation resources. In fact, he wouldn't have to worry about his cultivation speed falling behind others. Who knew, he might even surpass the disciples who had entered the Star Moon Palace in the future. Chapter 44:19. Thinking of this, Prince Lan glanced at Xiong Yi, who was about to speak, and quickly volunteered. He bowed and said, "Master, disciple has known about the Star Moon Palace for a long time, but disciple has never had the opportunity to go there. Now that Master has placed this opportunity in front of disciple, disciple is really excited. However, compared to the Fortune Gate's affairs, disciple feels that disciple's opportunity is far less important than the Fortune Gate's development. Only when the Fortune Gate thrives can disciple obtain more opportunities. Therefore, disciple has decided, disciple will give up this opportunity to solve Master's problem. Disciple will bring these disciples back to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range to resist the Immortal Palace's invasion." Oh! Xiao Hua was taken aback. He was indeed having a headache about the 200,000 soldiers returning, but it was not as serious as Prince Lan had said. After all, there were still some high-level disciples among the 200,000 soldiers. With them around, there would not be any trouble. As for the problems they would encounter along the way, Ingpo was more than enough to deal with them. That being said, hearing that Prince Lan was willing to give up his opportunity to contribute to the Fortune Gate, Xiaohua was overjoyed. He smiled and asked, "Prince Lan, have you really decided?" Disciple feels that not only Disciple thinks so, senior brother Xiongyi probably thinks so too. Prince Lan respectfully said, "After all, on the hidden immortal mainland, our Tao Gate's disciples were bullied by Confucian cultivators. It is not easy for the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate to grow to such a scale. Disciple and the others are not willing to turn this into nothingness." Indeed. Xiongyi also spoke. Disciple is also willing to bring these disciples back to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range and let senior brother Li Xiang rush to the Star Moon Palace. Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, "Master is comforted to have disciples like you. As long as you sincerely cooperate and help our Fortune Gate, there will be more opportunities like the Star Moon Palace in the future." Subsequently, Xiaohua sent a voice transmission to Prince Lan, "Also, you should remember where Changyu died, right?" When Prince Lan heard this, he was stunned for a moment before replying, "Yes, Master, Disciple will never forget that place. You should also know the demonic beast race that perished together with Changyu." Of course. Prince Lan seemed to understand what Xiaohua wanted to say and nodded his head firmly. There was a trace of joy to be seen in his eyes. "Good, kill them and avenge your junior brother," Xiaohua ordered coldly. Then, with a wave of his hand, he took out a bottle of pills and a jade eye pendant from his bosom and handed them to Prince Lan. He said, "This is Master's reward for you. I won't say the names of the cultivation methods and medicinal pills. You can comprehend them yourself first. If you feel that the time is right, you can take the medicinal pills. I guarantee that you will be able to break through to the middle stage of nascent soul before I return. Master will to help you break through to late stage." His Highness Lan was overjoyed. He originally wanted to decline and express his noble character and unquestionable integrity, but he remembered that Xiaohua didn't like empty formalities, so he hurriedly took it and said, "Thank you, Master. Since Prince Lan is willing to lead the troops, there is no need for Xiongyi to stay. To go to the to leave. To go to the heaven to and to go. To go time, to gather time, to the ascento the head to head to head to head. To place." Yes. Xiongyi nodded and handed the items to Prince Lan before flying to the thunder ship. Xiaohua turned to Ingpe and said, "You don't have to be the military advisor. You can go to your own demon realm with the army. Junior doesn't have any demon realm." Ingpe smiled bitterly. "Junior will bring my clansmen to the ascento the ascento. And, that's fine. Your clansmen can settle down in the ascento. Xiaohua smiled and said to Xian Songzi and spiritual master Jing Ting, "You two will be Prince Lan's assistants. You must protect him well. Don't let him get hurt." "Yes, Disciple understands." Xian Songzi and spiritual master Jing Ting bowed. Disciple will definitely protect junior brother Lan. Prince Lan was truly happy with his wise decision. He smiled and cupped his fists. "Thank you, senior martial brothers. What about you?" Xiaohua looked at Ao Zhantian and the other disciples. The Star Moon Palace was a great opportunity. How could Ao Zhantian and the other disciples not agree? They all nodded happily. After settling the matters in the Fortune Gate, Xiaohua asked Zhang Daoran and the others, "What about fellow Taoists?" "Junior is willing to go." Zhai Xingzi was the first to speak. "But I don't know if Qiu can go with her injuries." "It's fine as long as you want to go. Her injuries aren't a problem. At most, you won't go." Xiaohua smiled. After all, not everyone has the opportunity to enter. However, fellow Taoists' wedding night will have to be pushed back. Fuck, only a fool wouldn't go with such a great opportunity. Venerable Master Sun Kong shouted. Go, go. It's the wedding night. Who knows if they've already been singing every night. After saying that, Venerable Master Sun Kong realized that something was wrong. He hurriedly said to Prince Lan, fellow Taoist Prince Lan, I'm not talking about you. After all, we don't have your noble character and unquestionable integrity. When Venerable Master Sun Kong, who was at the 5th grade of Origin Energy, called him fellow Taoist and even mentioned that noble character and unquestionable integrity that he wanted to flaunt, Prince Lan knew that he had made the right choice. He smiled and said, there's no need to mention noble character and unquestionable integrity. It's my duty as a disciple to make some sacrifices for the sect. Venerable Master Sun Kong gave Prince Lan a thumbs up to express his appreciation. Prince Lan didn't mind, but Jai Xingzi's face was so red that it was about to drip blood. After all, the so-called singing every night had a double meaning. Very well, since everyone is willing, you all can stand to the side. Xiao Hua smiled and glanced at everyone. He then said, in a bit, follow this old man. Xiao Hua raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Hong! A thunderous sound rang out. Tru Chi rushed out, and he flew up into the night sky. Soon after, Xiao Hua's body flashed with lightning, and his body suddenly expanded to more than 1,000 zhang tall. High up in the sky, in the space of 100 li, all kinds of thunder rumbled, and thick lightning bolts swam in the night sky like a horned dragon. Not only that, under the horned dragon, Xiantian Tru Chi condensed into the shape of an auspicious cloud, and all kinds of colored pearls appeared everywhere, protecting Xiao Hua's golden color. Looking at Xiao Hua's feet, the pillars of light from the stars and moon that originally descended from the sky, once again appeared from the void, transforming into spirals that supported Xiao Hua, and even transformed into halos that swam up and down within the pearls. When Xiao Hua slightly released his Mahayana aura, a supreme aura that was not inferior to immortal Emperor Go Chen and Mahavairakana's aura enveloped an area of 1,000 miles. Disciples. Xiao Hua's voice was like a thunderclap. His avatar was like a god. With just a whisper, all 200,000 disciples knelt down and said in unison, disciples are here. Beast King Bai Qingyu bullied my fortune gate and suppressed my avatar. You defeated Bai Qingyu, and your morale soared. The heaven-concealing ridge and ancient Bell Mountain surrendered without a fight, handing over the 2 demon domains to my fortune gate. Xiao Hua added, this is my glory, and the glory of all my disciples. From today onward, there will be another invincible army on the 3 mainlands. Our fortune gate's great army will be invincible wherever it goes. Whether it's the demon race or the human race, anyone who dares to stand in my way will be killed. Kill. 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 Hundreds of thousands of Fortune Gate disciples killing intent soared into the night sky like rainbows. In the southern part of the night sky, the 7 merciless stars' radiance suddenly shone brightly, as if it wanted to illuminate the entire starry sky. At the same time as the 7 merciless stars' radiance, swish, 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 another 6 rays of starlight shone brightly. They were the Tianfu star, Tianliang star, Tianji star, Tiantong star, and Tianxiang star beside the 7 merciless star. The 6 stars of the southern dipper lit up the entire southern part of the night sky. Kill. The stars and moon's radiance were invisible, but it dyed the entire 1,000 demons' sacred grounds. The Fortune Gate's disciples were confused, and their auras surged as they shouted again. Boom. This time, the stars in the sky lit up at the same time. The entire 1,000 demons' sacred grounds was as bright as day, and countless pillars of starlight fell on a certain spot in the 1,000 demons' sacred grounds. Oh! Xiao Hua was slightly taken aback. The pillars of starlight fell in the same direction as the Feng Wu, golden-winged great peng, and the others. If he guessed correctly, it should be where the Great Holy Hall was. When Xiao Hua saw that only the Big Dipper wasn't lit up, a smile appeared on his face. Damn it, this must be the Feng Wu's doing. I wonder what kind of fortuitous encounter he had in the Great Holy Hall. Disciples. Xiao Hua's voice resounded in the starlight. When the heavens emit killing intent, the stars move. When the earth emits killing intent, dragons and snakes rise. When the humans emit killing intent, heaven and earth overturn. When my fortune gate emits killing intent, the three mainlands tremble. Today, my fortune gate has risen, and the heavens have changed. Today, all of you are escorting the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples back to the Fortune Dao Palace. With Daoist Zhao's orders, all of you shall exterminate anyone who dares to harm my disciples. Anyone who dares to harm my disciples will be exterminated. Yes. We know that anyone who dares to harm my disciples will be exterminated. Anyone who dares to harm my disciples will be exterminated. The group of disciples roared, and their voices surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. Although they didn't know if the demonic beasts could hear them, Daoist Master Qing Su, Venerable Master Fan Tian, and the others paled. They had never seen such an iron-blooded army. Black Bear, White Lion, Golden Condor, where are you? Seeing the unprecedented momentum of the Fortune Gate's disciples, Xiao Hua smiled and ordered. Black Bear and the other two demonic beasts didn't understand, but they still stepped out and knelt in the air. Master, we are here. What orders do you have for us? Although you are demonic beasts, you are loyal to my Fortune Gate. You have already submitted to me in the Black Wind Mountain Range. Now, my Fortune Gate has conquered the Baiqingyu, Ancient Bell Mountain, and Shrouded Sky Ridge. This is my Fortune Gate's foundation in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. I hereby order you all to guard the Black Bear Beast King, the White Lion Beast King, and the Golden Condor Beast King on my behalf, and become the backbone of my Fortune Gate. Xiao Hua ordered. You can recruit disciples in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, or you can bring the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's demonic beasts over. You can make all the decisions. Chapter 44:20. Thank you, Master. This lowly one thanks Master. The White Lion and Golden Eagle were overjoyed hearing this. A beast king of a generation, this was something they had never dared to imagine. That day on the Black Wind Ridge, they had called themselves Beast Kings, but that was just arrogance. But today, 200,000 disciples had passed by, and all the fruits of victory were theirs to reap. This was their reward for their loyalty to the Fortune Gate. Ah! Master. The Black Bear hesitated for a moment, then kowtowed. This lowly one has never been ambitious. This lowly one does not want to be a beast king, this lowly one only wants to guard Master's cultivation dwelling. His granny. Xiao Hua did not expect the Black Bear to abandon Baiqingyu, nor did he expect the Black Bear's spirit to be so loyal to him. He would rather not be a beast king or a feudal lord than follow him. Xiao Hua was touched, but at the same time, he was a little passive. However, a moment later, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the Black Bear. The Black Bear was stunned for a moment, then he hesitated for a moment before saying righteously, moreover, this lowly one feels that this lowly one is Master's gatekeeper, so it is only right for this lowly one to work for Master, and should not receive any rewards. The Flowing Merchant Union's patriarch Bo led his entire tribe to help our Fortune Gate, and they also had a share in trampling Baiqingyu. This lowly one is willing to give Baiqingyu to the Yingbo tribe, and make this place their demon territory. Ah! Hearing those words, the distant Yingpo was greatly shocked. However, he was both surprised and delighted. Although the Flowing Merchant Union had grown stronger, the Yingbo tribe's overall strength was still weak, and they could not win a place in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Furthermore, the demon realms of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm varied in size, but no matter how big or small they were, they all had demon kings, mountain lords, and so on. These demon kings and mountain lords all had the support of even more powerful demon clans, and all of these forces could be traced back to the 6 great saints of the Great Sage Temple. Therefore, if there were no accidents, it would be extremely difficult for the Yingbo tribe to obtain a demon territory in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Although Xiaohua had made it clear that he wanted to invite the Yingbo tribe to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, the Yingbo tribe was still a demonic beast clan. However, Yingbo's clansmen were demonic beast clansmen. They could stay in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range for a while, but they couldn't stay there forever. Moreover, they couldn't stay under the Fortune Gate's protection forever. Therefore, Yingpo was still willing to establish himself in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. However, Yingpo had never imagined that Bai Qingyu would fall into his lap, because the Fortune Gate's disciples were too powerful. Any random Fortune Gate disciple with a cultivation of grade 7 origin Qi realm had the ability to annihilate his entire clan. Moreover, his clan had not obtained any battle merits from the battle with Bai Qingyu, so why should he ask Xiaohua to bestow Bai Qingyu to him? Therefore, the Black Bear's suggestion stunned Yingpo. He didn't understand why the Black Bear spirit, whom he didn't know, would take such good care of him. Of course, Xiaohua's words made Yingpo understand. This was because Xiaohua pondered for a moment before saying with a smile, "Black Bear, you're right. To resist foreign aggression, one must first pacify internal strife. To reward internal strife, one must reward external strife." This old man was wrong. Yingpo, Bai Qingyu will be bestowed to you today as a place for your people to live and reproduce. Are you willing? Hearing this, how could Yingpo not know that this was Xiaohua's intention? He originally wanted to decline, but seeing that He Xiong had already declined, if he continued to decline, Xiaohua's face would not be good. Furthermore, he himself really wanted to find a place for his clansmen to settle down, so he knelt down without hesitation and said, "Yingbo thanks Teacher Xiao on behalf of my clansmen." Just as Yingpo's words fell, all of Yingpo's people on the lightning boat knelt down and cried, "This little one thanks Master Xiao, we will forever be loyal to Master Xiao, we will never betray him." Master. The Golden Condor and White Lion were dumbfounded. They didn't expect the Black Bear to not want to be a Beast King. Wouldn't that mean that one of the 3 Beast Kings was missing? They hurriedly wanted to say something, but Xiaohua smiled faintly and said, "From now on, the heaven-concealing ridge and ancient Bell Mountain will be my Fortune Gate's foundation. Your task is difficult, don't tell me you want to decline." The Golden Condor and White Lion's hearts trembled, and they hurriedly answered, "We bear Master's heavy responsibility, we will do our best until our last breath." Good. Xiaohua nodded and said, "Discuss this matter with His Highness Lan." Yes. The 3 demonic beasts stood up and retreated to the side. Xiaohua looked at the 1,000 demonic sacred grounds that was as bright as day, then he pointed in the direction of the hidden immortal mainland and said, pointing the sword at the hidden immortal mainland, "Whoever dares to block my army along the way, kill them all." Yes, Master. All of the Fortune Gate's disciples stood up and shouted in unison. Then, the 2 lightning boats rumbled, and Yingpo and the others flew up to the lightning boats. On the lightning boat, His Highness Lan shouted in high spirits, "Fortune Gate's disciples, listen to my command, set out, boom boom." The lightning boats flickered with lightning, competing with the starlight in the sky. On the lightning boat, His Highness Lan bowed and said, "Master, this disciple is going. An. Go, be careful on the way." Xiaohua nodded and smiled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples, Yingpo's people, and some dragons and humans in an orderly manner, flying in the direction Xiaohua pointed out. After the disciples left, Xiaohua withdrew his avatar, leaving Zhai Xingzi and the others in the sky. At this time, Xiongyi flew over and asked in a low voice, "Master, why are you pointing to the east? That is not where my Soaring Dragon Mountain Range is located." "Ah. Is it wrong?" Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said while rubbing his nose, "It's also the hidden immortal mainland, His Highness Lan can go as he pleases, he will definitely find the way back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. But, Xiong Yi said in a low voice, that direction is where junior brother Chang Yu died. Heaven's will. Xiao Hua's eyes turned cold, and he said, those who dared to kill my Fortune Gate's disciples must pay the price. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiong Yi nodded and pointed at the several thousand golden core disciples in the distance and reported, these are the 8,111 golden core disciples I brought from the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Ah! Why are there so many golden core disciples? Xiao Hua was a little surprised. After all, in his impression, the hidden immortal mainland's Tao Gate had withered. How could there be so many golden core disciples in the soaring Dragon Mountain range? Good, father understands. Xiong Yi explained, after master left, this disciple discussed with senior brother Li Xiang, junior brother Lan, and junior brother Chang Yu. Our soaring Dragon Mountain range covers a large area and there is abundant heaven and earth origin energy. Not to mention several tens of thousands of disciples, even hundreds of thousands of disciples can be accommodated. Therefore, the Fortune Gate's disciples regard recruiting disciples as the most important thing to do. Every year, disciples will be sent to villages and other places to look for children with excellent aptitudes. It's very strange, in these 100 years, the hidden immortal mainland's weather has changed greatly. The 9 prefectures often have disasters, there are many mediocre officials in the Confucian government, and there are many disaster victims everywhere. Wherever our Fortune Gate's disciples go, not only do we recruit disciples, we also take out enough good seeds to help the disaster victims cultivate. The villagers are all willing to give their children to our Fortune Gate. Moreover, the method master left behind to select disciples is also very powerful. The so-called spiritual roots technique is very useful, as those who have spiritual roots are all very talented. Their cultivation speed is several times faster than the average disciple, so 200 years is enough for many disciples to step into the golden core realm. Xiong Yi habitually waved his hand as he said, our soaring Dragon Mountain range, according to master's custom before he left, recruits about 10,000 disciples every year. However, because of the recruitment of disciples, the transactions with the Luo Yi Merchant Union, and the disciples going to other places in the hidden immortal mainland to recruit Foundation Establishment and Golden Core Realm disciples, the movement is quite big, attracting the attention of Confucian families and immortal palaces. In the past few decades, there are often Confucian cultivators coming to visit our soaring Dragon Mountain range, so this disciple and the others slowed down the expansion of the Fortune Gate. In the past 200 years, we have recruited a total of 1.6 million disciples. Not bad. Xiao Hua praised, your ability in this aspect is much stronger than master's. Although he said so, Xiao Hua was clear in his heart that the Shenhua continent could not be compared to the 3 mainlands. The Shenhua continent was purely starting from scratch, and the number of humans in the 3 mainlands was absolutely terrifying. This was because the Tao Gate was suppressed by Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal mainland. If there were no restrictions, with the Fortune Gate situation, it would not be a problem to recruit 100,000 disciples every year. Of course, it was precisely because the Tao Gate was not prosperous and the threshold for Confucian cultivators was too high that the Fortune Gate could casually recruit talented disciples on the hidden immortal mainland. Master doesn't know, there are too many disaster victims, and they are fighting to give their children to our Fortune Gate so that they can have food to eat. Xiong Yi smiled bitterly, so in the end, this disciple and the others have already become a minor detail, and the distribution of grain seeds is the most important task. In the soaring Dragon Mountain range, there are many places where grain seeds are planted, and they have to be sent out every year. Not bad. Xiao Hua nodded again, our Fortune Gate's mission is to save the world. We would rather not have disciples and not develop, but save the common people. Disciple, you have done well. Master, it's good that you say so. Xiong Yi nodded, then this disciple can rest assured. Oh. Xiao Hua asked curiously, could it be that the 4 of you have different opinions? It's not convenient for this disciple to say, Master will know when you return to the Fortune Tao Palace. Xiong Yi did not say much, and only pointed out, this disciple's opinions are not quite the same, but all of us are thinking for our fortune gate. Xiaohua nodded again. Xiong Yi said proudly, but, Master, people often say that good people will be rewarded well. Although this disciple does not wish to recruit disciples, the disciples that our fortune gate recruits are all outstanding. Among the 1,600,000 disciples, there are more than 400,000 foundation establishment, enlightened, and fusion stage disciples with first-grade essence force, 600,000 heart-moved disciples with second-grade essence force, and 500,000 tranquil spirit stage disciples with second-grade essence force, 300,000 disciples with second-grade essence force. The composition of the Fortune Gate's disciples is a little strange. Xiaohua laughed, I'm afraid this kind of situation can only happen in our Fortune Gate during this period. Chapter 44:21. Xiong Yi nodded respectfully and said with a smile, indeed. Normally, when a Dao sect established a country, there would be a nascent soul imperial advisor or a golden core imperial advisor. Below them, there would be dozens of so-called disciples. Under these disciples, there would be dozens of disciples. Below these disciples, there would be hundreds of disciples. However, our Fortune Gate's disciples do not have any bottlenecks at grade 1. From integrating with the Fortune Gate to the heart movement realm, everything is as smooth as flowing water. In the past, we also wanted our disciples to give pointers to the new disciples, but there was not much difference in their cultivation speed. In the end, we simply let our disciples give pointers to the new disciples for the first 10 years or so, and then, when their cultivation realm was high enough, we would recruit new disciples. In addition, we did not dare to recruit more disciples in recent decades, so now our Fortune Gate's disciple structure is like a spindle, thin on both sides and thick in the middle. Many heart-intent disciples who have reached grade 2 have no disciples. Xiaohua was used to the training and foundation building realms, so when he heard Xiong Yi talk about foundation building, consecration, and fusion, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. Fortunately, when Xiong Yi was explaining, he also mentioned the grade of his elemental energy, so he could at least understand. Xiaohua frowned and said, Disciple, didn't Master give you a new cultivation technique when I left? Those are the Qi refining and foundation establishment realms, did you not teach them? Master. Xiong Yi slapped his forehead and said, Disciple was a little confused. Disciple has followed Master's cultivation technique to the newly recruited disciples, only the disciples who entered our Fortune Gate later use Master's modified cultivation technique. But because Disciple has been using foundation establishment, light illumination, and integration since young, Disciple can't help but lean towards that direction. It is easy to impart cultivation techniques, but changing one's mindset is really difficult. Xiaohua sighed. Disciple was wrong, but Master does not need to worry. Xiong Yi smiled and said, Our Fortune Gate's disciples use Qi refining and foundation establishment realms, only Disciple can't change. Alright, go on. Xiaohua himself was not used to the hidden immortal mainland's cultivation system, of course, he could not force Xiong Yi and the others to correct it immediately. Yes, Master. Xiong Yi continued, before coming to the Thousand Demons sacred grounds, our Fortune Gate had over 23,000 Golden Core Realm disciples. Among them, 2,000 mid and late-stage Golden Core Realm disciples joined the Fortune Gate later. This includes this disciple, Senior Brother Li Xiang, and Martial Uncle Lan's disciples. Senior Brother Li Xiang stayed behind to guard the soaring Dragon Mountain range, leaving behind 5,000 Golden Core disciples. Junior Brother Lan, Junior Brother Changyu, and I have brought a total of 18,300 Golden Core disciples and 10,000 late-stage Foundation Establishment disciples to the Thousand Demons sacred realm. Along the way, we lost 50% of our disciples, and half of our Golden Core disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples. How come the number of Jindan disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples are equal? Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled, because according to common sense, it should be the Foundation Establishment disciples that were injured more. Xiong Yi bit his lip and said, that's because core formation disciples have to protect Foundation Establishment disciples. When they encounter danger, they let Foundation Establishment disciples go first. What a good disciple. Xiao Hua also sighed, deeply moved. Therefore, before the war, there were only 4,000 late-stage Foundation Establishment disciples and 10,221 Golden Core disciples left. Xiong Yi continued, during the Great Battle, although there were disciples led by Master, there were still many casualties. Most of them were Golden Core disciples. Those Foundation Establishment disciples didn't fly as fast as Golden Core disciples, so they didn't fight as much with the demons. Now, there are only 8,111 Golden Core disciples left. Xiao Hua asked. Xiong Yi nodded, yes, there are still 3,607 late-stage Foundation Establishment disciples. Good. Xiao Hua said, then turned to Black Bear and said, Black Bear, quickly catch up with the army and bring back the remaining Soaring Dragon Mountain Range disciples. Yes, Master. Black Bear's spirit didn't hesitate at all and urged the demonic cloud to chase after the army. Master was wrong. Xiao Hua sighed, these Foundation Establishment disciples also have the qualifications to enter the Star Moon Palace. But, Master. Xiong Yi looked at the thousands of Golden Core disciples and said, Disciple only heard that there are very few cultivators who can enter the Star Moon Palace. We have over 10,000 disciples, how can we all enter the Star Moon Palace? It depends on fate. Xiao Hua laughed, if there is no fate, how can Master bring back 200,000 Fortune Gate disciples? Yes, disciple understands. Xiong Yi had to explain even if he didn't understand. Go, instruct the disciples that when the Foundation Establishment disciples return, Master will bring them into the Kunlun Immortal Realm to cultivate. Do not resist. Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun Mirror and instructed Xiong Yi. Xiong Yi naturally knew about the Kunlun Mirror. Didn't Yuanya and the others' cultivation soar after entering the Kunlun Mirror? He agreed and hurried off. Fellow Taoists. After Xiao Hua finished instructing, he looked at Zhai Xingzi and the others and said, I have a Kunlun Mirror here. There is a world inside that can cultivate. I will bring you all into the Kunlun Mirror and bring you all to the Star Moon Palace. Zhai Xingzi and the others naturally knew that once they entered the Kunlun Mirror, their lives would be in Xiao Hua's hands. But how could they not trust Xiao Hua? All of them nodded in agreement. Xiao Hua shook the Kunlun Mirror and sent them into the Shenhua continent. He then took Ao Zhantian, Su Tingzi, Yuanya, Dai, Little Black, Little Yellow, and the others into the Kunlun Mirror. Not long after, the Black Bear spirit returned with several thousand Foundation Establishment Realm disciples. Xiao Hua took the Fortune Gate disciples, Xiong Yi, the Black Bear spirit, and the others into the Kunlun Mirror. Only then did he look at the starry sky and land and flew towards the east of the Thousand Demons' sacred territory. The changes in the Thousand Demons' sacred territory were naturally caused by Feng Wu. After bidding farewell to Xiao Hua, Feng Wu flapped her wings and flew towards the Great Holy Hall. The golden-winged Great Rock, Flying Feather Void Beast, and five-colored Sea God Shell followed behind her. The four demonic race great sages displayed their various abilities. In just a short moment, they had already flown tens of thousands of miles away. Seeing that they were gradually leaving Bai Qingyu, Feng Wu's eyes flashed like lightning. She swept her gaze across the land that was still in a mess and sneered in her heart. Wasn't Bai Qingyu, Shrouded Sky Ridge, and Ancient Bell Mountain the same case? Moreover, because of Bai Xian's selfish desires, she had triggered the divine punishment and implicated all the Shell race's bloodline in the Thousand Demons' sacred territory. From today onwards, although Bai Xian's influence still lingered, the arrogant and despotic Shell race might not be able to recover for a period of time. As for when they would be able to make a comeback, that would depend on the little white dragon and Bai Bo's abilities. Thinking about the little white dragon, Feng Wu couldn't help but laugh. Regardless of whether it was the human race or the demonic race, they all treated him as Xiao Hua. Whether it was the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate, the demonic race's Endless Merchant Union, or even Ao Zhantian, Zhai Xingzi, and the others, they all sacrificed a lot in order to rescue the little white dragon from Bai Qingyu. Little did they know that the little white dragon actually enjoyed the blessings of multiple people. There was no need for anyone to rescue him at all. That beast king Bai Qing's daughter actually obediently stole him away. However, it was precisely because of the little white dragon's disappearance that Xiao Hua and the three demonic race great sages had to make a move. Damn it, the dragon race is really powerful. They're really attractive to ordinary female demonic race members. Feng Wu thought naturally in his heart. At this moment, he suddenly frowned as if he had thought of something. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a streak of golden light above his head. The golden-winged great rock had already flown past him and rushed towards the horizon. Ha! Feng Wu laughed loudly. Does the great rock sage want to compete with this sage? If that's what the great rock sage wants, why don't we compete? The golden-winged great rock's voice came from afar. He laughed and said, let's see whose demonic body is stronger and whose flying speed is faster. The limit is 1 day. Behind Feng Wu, the flying feather void beast shouted loudly. If you go any further, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up. All right. Feng Wu agreed. He flapped his wings and lightning crackled around his body. Beams of starlight and moonlight blasted into the great rock sage and a string of illusory figures appeared out of thin air. Feng Wu chased after the golden-winged great rock at lightning speed. Hee, the great rock sage is indeed extraordinary. In the sky, the golden-winged great rock laughed loudly and shouted proudly, however, it won't be easy for you to catch up to this sage. As they spoke, the two demonic race great sages' figures disappeared at an extremely fast speed. The flying feather void beast and the five-colored sea god shell were naturally not slow, but the two saints were slightly inferior to the great rock sage and Feng Wu. Layers of ripples rose rapidly in the air. Within the ripples, the two saints' figures were faintly discernible. Sometimes they were distorted abnormally, sometimes they returned to normal, but most of the time they were broken illusory figures. Similarly, in just a moment, the two saints' figures also disappeared. While flying, the five-colored sea god Shell heard the flying feather void beast's voice. Shell Sage, what do you think of the seven-star Phoenix Sage? What do I think? The five-colored sea god Shell's mouth was bitter. While urging his demonic body to continue flying, he replied indifferently, what can this sage think? This Phoenix Sage has obtained the recognition of the 7 stars, so his strength must be far beyond ours. Didn't you see his battle with the Great Rock Sage? Even the Great Rock Sage was almost defeated by him. If the Great Rock Sage hadn't materialized his star mark at the critical moment, the position of the strongest demonic race would have changed hands. Speaking of this, the five-colored sea god Seashell looked at the distorted space in the distance with disappointment and said, fighting naturally requires strength. It may be a cultivation method, a secret technique, or a monster body. The Great Rock Sage has been a great saint for hundreds of thousands of years, and the time he spent in the Great Saint realm is only second to the profound Pentaceratops. As for the Phoenix Sage, not only has she just become a saint, she hasn't even entered the Great Saint Hall yet. How would we know about her opportunities? Also, the Great Rock Sage wants to compete in flying speed with the Phoenix Sage. I'm afraid he wants to compete in physical strength, right? Shell Sage, this sage's flying speed isn't my strong point. Who do you think is faster? The flying feather void beast didn't hesitate at all, as if it had already guessed. It should be the Great Rock Sage. After all, his true form is the Great Rock Sage, and he's known as the demonic race's #1 flying beast. However, even so, this sage feels that the Phoenix Sage isn't too far behind. Chapter 44:22. That's right. Saint Anai is right, said the pentacolored seashell. The demon body is the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race. Saint Phoenix's demon body isn't inferior to Saint Peng's. Even if Saint Phoenix is defeated today, it's only a matter of time before he becomes the strongest of the demon race. The flying feather void beast smiled. Who is the strongest of the demon race isn't something we should be concerned about. It should be a matter for the two great sages, Saint Phoenix and Saint Dragon. They've been fighting for so many years, and now there's a 7-star Saint Phoenix. The great sage hall is getting more and more lively. AI. The pentacolored seashell sighed. That's right. There's going to be a great change in the 1,000 demon sacred realm. I wonder if there'll be an even greater bloodbath. That depends on Saint Phoenix's ambition. The flying feather void beast smiled. He only needs half of Saint Dragon's ambition, that's unlikely. The pentacolored seashell replied absent-mindedly. From the situation in Baiqingyu, Veiled Sky Ridge, and Ancient Bell Mountain today, Saint Phoenix's heart doesn't seem to be here. That's right. That's what this saint finds most strange. The flying feather void beast smiled. However, that was all he said. He paused for a moment and waited for the pentacolored seashell to continue. Unfortunately, the pentacolored seashell was preoccupied and didn't ask. The flying feather void beast thought for a moment and took the opportunity to ask, Saint Shell, you just said that the demon body is the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race. That seems a bit lacking, no? The five-colored sea god Bei was startled when he heard this. He asked indifferently, what do you mean, Saint Anai? From what this saint knows, bloodline, should be the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race, right? The flying feather void beast smiled. His words were full of meaning. The pentacolored seashell smiled. There's a saying in the human race that the benevolent see benevolence and the wise see wisdom. I'm afraid that's what it means. Perhaps Saint Anai is right, perhaps this saint is right, or perhaps you and I are both right. Seeing that the pentacolored seashell didn't answer directly, the flying feather void beast's eyes turned. Earlier, the five-colored sea god shell had said that its bloodline had been taken away. The flying feather void beast was both shocked and confused. He was proficient in bloodline techniques, so he was naturally aware that ordinary bloodlines couldn't be stripped away. Even though Xiao Hua was a grand ascension stage human cultivator, he didn't possess any powerful abilities. Therefore, he didn't believe the five-colored sea god seashell's words at all. He felt that the five-colored sea god seashell was trying to cover up something. Moreover, the seven-colored seashell's shell had been shattered by Xiao Hua. If the five-colored seashell's bloodline had really been taken away, then the seven-colored seashell's bloodline could naturally be taken away as well. In that case, the situation of the entire 1,000 Devil sacred realm would fundamentally change. For the sake of the future arrangements, the flying feather void beast had to clarify the matter of the bloodline and how Xiao Hua had defeated the old ancestor. The flying feather void beast pondered the situation for a moment before asking, by the way, Saint Bei, why did a streak of light suddenly appear after that grand ascension stage human cultivator was trapped by the old ancestor? Not only did the light disappear from the old ancestor's body, but even more light from the 1,000 Devil sacred realm fell into the light, and as the light began to flow, the phenomena created by the old ancestor's attacks gradually disappeared. The old ancestor's bondage shell was destroyed, and in the end, the grand ascension stage human cultivator managed to break free, but I wasn't able to identify what method he used in the end. Can you answer my question, Saint Bei? The five-colored sea god shell faltered slightly upon hearing this, and it glanced at the flying feather void beast with a hint of hesitation in its heart. Earlier, it had revealed that its bloodline had been taken away, and it had regretted it ever since. After hearing the flying feather void beast's probing, it made a slight mental calculation before replying in a wary manner, "That's the old ancestor's business. How would I know if she didn't tell me?" Hee hee. The flying feather void beast wasn't surprised by the five-colored sea god shell's answer in the slightest, and it continued in a seemingly nonchalant manner, "By the way, I seem to have seen an ancient record in the Great Holy Hall about 70,000 years ago, right?" The five-colored sea god shell asked in a cold voice, "What do you mean by that, Saint and I?" "It's nothing." The flying feather void beast hurriedly chuckled. "After all, the five-colored light is Saint Bei's bonded ability, and even Saint Peng has praised it in the past. The sudden disappearance of the five-colored light has given me some ideas about the origins of that Grand Ascension stage human cultivator and Saint Phoenix, so I wanted to have a chat with Saint Bei." "Oh. What do you mean, Saint and I?" The five-colored sea god shell was rather perplexed. "What's wrong with their origins?" "Of course it's wrong." The flying feather void beast wasn't surprised at all by the five-colored sea god shell's lack of response, and it smiled as it said, "If it were just a human Grand Ascension stage human cultivator, I wouldn't think too much about it. We didn't know that there was such a human cultivator on the hidden immortal continent, so it's normal that we didn't know about it. However, don't forget that this human Grand Ascension stage human cultivator is a Taoist cultivator. All of the Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal continent view the Taoist sects as venomous snakes and scorpions. How could there be a human Grand Ascension stage human cultivator on the hidden immortal continent? As far as I can remember, aside from the primordial chaos patriarch who stirred up chaos on the three continents, there doesn't seem to be any Taoist cultivator capable of such feats." "That's true." The five-colored sea god shell nodded in response. "I've already thought of that when I saw that human Grand Ascension stage human cultivator." The five-colored sea god shell shuddered as it spoke, and it hurriedly exclaimed, "There seems to be more than one human Grand Ascension stage human cultivator, right?" At the time, there were 36 human Grand Ascension stage human cultivators who had besieged Saint Peng. "That's right." The flying feather void beast couldn't help but scoff at the five-colored sea god shell's lack of awareness. However, it was quite happy to have such a slow-witted great sage as its ally. After all, this pig-like ally had a godlike patriarch backing it up. "No, that's not all." The five-colored sea god seashell immediately thought of something else and exclaimed, "That skinny guy has a desolate aura on him. He's also a ninth-grade essence force. That strange cultivator who fought me possesses bloodline power and spatial power, and he's also at the ninth grade of origin force. What the fuck is going on the three continents? Why are there so many supreme cultivators appearing all of a sudden? Could it be that ninth grade origin force cultivators aren't worth anything anymore? Also, the flying feather void beast continued in a cold voice, after the patriarch's body was destroyed, there was a massive barrier of light to our left. After the barrier was destroyed, a devilish lord appeared, and his aura is even more powerful than the Pentaceratops. Oh, and there's also that so-called Wenxing. They're all at the mid-ninth grade of origin force, and some of them are even at the high grade. I'm afraid that the old ancestor was defeated under their joint attack." Clear light flashed through the flying feather void beast's eyes as it spoke, and the five-colored sea god shell's body faintly appeared within the light. The flying feather void beast wanted to carefully inspect the five-colored sea god shell's reaction. Unfortunately, the flying feather void beast was destined to be disappointed as the five-colored sea god shell didn't show any signs of abnormality. The flying feather void beast replied, "Even a few ninth-grade origin force cultivators wouldn't be able to defeat the patriarch. I know her, barrier the best. Have you forgotten, Sage Bei? Those 36 human Grand Ascension stage beings." The flying feather void beast said coldly, "They suddenly disappeared when the first Grand Ascension stage human appeared." "So what if they disappeared?" "The Kunlun mirror can't be used within the patriarch's barrier." The five-colored sea god shell said with disdain. "Then how do you think the patriarch was defeated, Sage Bei?" The flying feather void beast asked with a smile as it led the five-colored sea god shell into its trap step by step. The five-colored sea god shell stammered, I'm afraid only the patriarch knows. Of course, if the patriarch doesn't tell us how she was defeated, we wouldn't know either. The flying feather void beast said with a smile, furthermore, Sage Foam wasn't within the barrier at the time, so he might not know. However, if I were to guess, an opponent even more powerful than the patriarch appeared, right? More powerful than the patriarch? The five-colored sea god shell's heart stirred, and it said, the most powerful beings on the three continents are us. The patriarch has a secret technique, so she's different from us. How could she have? See, Sage and are you saying that this human Grand Ascension stage being also has a secret technique? How could a human like him possibly have such a secret technique? It's impossible for a human to have such a secret technique, but what about other races? The flying feather void beast said with a smile, can't other races exist in this human's body? The five-colored sea god shell's imagination ran wild, and it cried out, you're saying that there's a race as mysterious as the patriarch in the human's body? It's unlikely that it's in the human's body. The flying feather void beast said with a smile, after all, the human's body is weak, and a powerful race can't exist in the human's body for a long time. If it's possible, it should be the Kunlun mirror. Impossible. The five-colored sea god shell habitually denied it, but after saying it, he was dumbfounded and slapped himself in the face, oh, yes. If there's a mysterious being more powerful than the patriarch, wouldn't he be able to come out of the Kunlun mirror? Mysterious being. The flying feather void beast heard the five-colored sea god shell change the word race to mysterious being, and it sneered in its heart. It knew that the five-colored sea god shell had already fallen into its trap, so it went along with the five-colored sea god shell's words. Yes, mysterious being. I once read an ancient record in the Great Sage Palace. It was about a demon called Jinxiu, and the entire demon race was wiped out by a mysterious being. Speaking of this, the flying feather void beast looked at Qin Guang again. Sure enough, although the five-colored sea god shell didn't move, the space around it rippled. The ripple was very weak, but it was still detected by the flying feather void beast, who was proficient in the power of space. Chapter 44-23. Zhen and I. As if trying to hide its emotions, the five-colored sea god seashell responded, and the ripples in space disappeared. It then fell into deep thought, and after a moment, said hesitantly, I seem to have heard of it before. It seems to be an extremely powerful demon beast from ancient times, proficient in the power of space. That's right. The flying feather void beast sneered coldly in his heart, but on the surface, he flattered, Sage Bei is indeed knowledgeable. This Xin Yu is an ancient record that this sage has searched for a long time before finding. I didn't expect Sage Bei to be so familiar with it. I wouldn't dare. I've only heard the ancestor mention it occasionally. The five-colored sea god seashell really did have some recollection of it after hearing the flying feather void beast's words. I don't remember the details. To tell you the truth, when I became a great saint, I saw a strange monster in the sea of stars. It rejected my ascension to the great saint realm, and it felt like it was similar to my original name, the winged void beast said. So, after I became a great saint, I searched through the ancient records of the great holy temple in an attempt to find the origin of this unknown great saint. Only then did I find the legend of Zhen Ni in the ancient records. According to the records, Zhen Ni was extremely powerful. Not only was its physical body comparable to metal and stone, but it could also control space as it wished. His abilities far surpass my flying feather void beast. Saint Bei, think about it. When I saw a demon that was so similar to my ability, and even more powerful than mine, how could I not trace its origin? How could I not find out why this powerful demon had disappeared for no reason? When this sage took a look, it was nothing serious, but it really gave me a shock. The flying feather Ni void beast sent a voice transmission with some lingering fear. The records clearly state that one day, the Zhenyong Grand Sage fought with another demon for some unknown reason. That demon was no match for the Zhenyong Grand Sage and was almost killed by the Zhenyong Grand Sage. However, the strange thing was that the Fae that was about to die suddenly transformed into a strange existence. This existence's appearance and true form could not be seen with the naked eye or with one's essence perception. Furthermore, the weather in the entire Thousand Fae sacred realm changed drastically. The clear sky turned into dark clouds as spatial vortexes filled the sky. That being used some unknown abhijna, and the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's physical body instantly withered. Furthermore, the blood-red light around his body flowed and turned into tiny fragments that fell into the hands of that being. Not only that, but the situation after that was similar to today. After the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's blood light dissipated into nothingness, the entire Thousand Demons sacred realm was suffused with blood light. Countless amounts of blood light gathered in the hands of this being. At this point, the flying feather void beast stopped, and the five-colored sea god shell asked, and then? After that, the Zhenyong Grand Sage disappeared, and so did that entity. The Zhenxiong lineage lost their spatial abhijna and gradually disappeared from the Thousand Demons sacred realm. The flying feather void beast's voice sounded distant, as if the Zhenxiong lineage had disappeared. Phew! The five-colored sea god shell heaved a sigh of relief and laughed, "Thank you for your reminder, Saint Ni." However, the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's blood essence was probably absorbed by that being. The entire Zhenxiong lineage in the Thousand Demons sacred realm seemed to have their blood essence sucked as well. It was different from today. Then, what was absorbed by the human Mahayana lineage today? The flying feather void beast seemed to ask casually. This time, the five-colored sea god shell did not answer directly. Instead, it paused for a moment before saying, "You don't have to worry about it, Saint Ni." It's alright, Saint Bei. No matter what it is, I won't mention it again. The flying feather void beast saw the five-colored sea god shell's denial and already had a plan in its mind. It laughed, "What I want to say is that you must have lost something, right? Also, the five-colored sea god shell lineage must have lost something similar, right?" The five-colored sea god shell did not answer. It was actually very dejected. It could not afford to pursue this matter. There were many descendants of the shell race in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, so how could it not be leaked? Furthermore, it had mentioned it in a moment of absent-mindedness. Since Saint Bei isn't answering, I'll take it as a yes. The flying feather void beast finally voiced its conjecture. In other words, the being our ancestor encountered today is as terrifying as the being from before. Think about it, does this human Mahayana lineage have the qualifications to do so? The seven-star Phoenix Sage said that he became a great sage in the Kunlun mirror of the human Mahayana lineage. What does that mean? It means that the terrifying being is in the Kunlun mirror of the human Mahayana lineage. Oh, Saint Bei, do you know the primordial chaos ancestor of the Taoist sect? I do, what about it? The five-colored sea god shell was completely unable to follow the flying feather void beast's train of thought. The primordial chaos ancestor was suppressed by the yin-yang illustration by the Confucian and Buddhist cultivators, and they wanted to use the illustration to kill him. However, the primordial chaos ancestor found a way to refine the yin-yang illustration, and it said that he attached his nascent soul to it. As long as the treasure isn't destroyed, he won't die. Do you think that the mysterious being in the Kunlun mirror also attached his nascent soul to the Kunlun immortal realm and used it to achieve immortality? Damn it, how am I supposed to know? The five-colored sea god shell was confused by the flying feather void beast's words. Saint Ni, what are you trying to say? What I mean is... The flying feather void beast smiled mysteriously and transmitted its voice, that human Mahayana lineage is just a cover. He's no match for our ancestor. In other words, those Mahayana lineages, the seven-star phoenix sage, Wen Chu, and the others are all subordinates of that mysterious being hiding in the Kunlun mirror. They're even like demon pets. Hiss. The five-colored sea god seashell turned pale with fright. He took a deep breath and stopped moving. His entire monster body appeared in the void as he shouted, "How? How is this possible?" After a short while, the flying feather void beast flew back from the distance, and it looked at the five-colored sea god shell with a smile. Most humans and demons on the three continents think that the most powerful being in the thousand-demon holy realm is the golden-winged Great Peng, but what about the truth? The six of us have more or less received guidance from our ancestor. If she doesn't care about fame and fortune, wouldn't she be just like that mysterious being? The five-colored sea god shell was silent for a long while before it finally muttered, "I originally thought that the seven-star phoenix sage and Wen Chu might be the clones of that human Mahayana lineage, but I didn't think that Saint Ni's thoughts would be even more incredible." Saint Ni's thoughts are even more incredible. The flying feather void beast said with disdain, "The Taoist sect does have cloning techniques, but it's not like we don't have them either. Saint and I, don't tell me you haven't cultivated clones. But think about it, can you create so many clones? Furthermore, each clone is different, some are Confucian cultivators, some are demonic cultivators, and there's even a devilish lord. Besides, how can clones be more powerful than the true body? Which clone isn't at a lower level of power? If you were to say that the dragon that was sealed was the clone of that human Mahayana lineage, then that would make sense. That's true. The five-colored sea god shell nodded before flying away again. Behind him, the flying feather void beast asked, "Ancestor, do you have any instructions for Saint Bei?" The five-colored sea god shell hesitated momentarily before replying, "Our ancestor didn't say much, she only told me to follow her instructions." That's right. The flying feather void beast nodded. Our ancestor's bondage shell has been shattered, but think about it, when she was speaking to that human Mahayana lineage, she didn't sound very respectful at all. That's right. The five-colored sea god shell hurriedly replied, "You're right, Saint and I. Our ancestor didn't dare to say anything as she was afraid that we would offend that mysterious being." The flying feather void beast looked at the five-colored sea god shell with a meaningful expression. "In that case, you should understand why I'm being so long-winded, right?" The five-colored sea god shell was a little dejected. "I've lost some of my abilities, and I don't have any desire to win anymore. I have no intention of getting involved in the matters of the golden-winged Great Peng, the arcane Pentaceratops, and the heaven-defying lightning phoenix." The flying feather void beast was a little exasperated, and it said, "That's part of the reason, Saint and I. The most important thing is still the Dragon Island or the Great Holy Hall, you have to decide which one you want to choose." The five-colored sea god shell was truly perplexed, and it turned to the flying feather void beast with a perplexed expression. "Of course I'm going to choose the Great Holy Hall. What's the difference between the Dragon Island and the Great Holy Hall? Motherfucker." The flying feather void beast cursed internally. If it weren't for the ancestor, how could that bastard have become a great sage? With that brain of his. Oh, that's right, the five-colored sea god shell doesn't have a brain. The flying feather void beast could only curse internally. He still needed to form an alliance with the five-colored sea god shell, and he didn't dare to offend Bei Xian, so he patiently said, "There's something strange about what happened today. The matter of suppressing the human Grand Ascension stage avatar was the ancestor's idea, and I also know a little about it, but Saint Peng doesn't. The sky-obscuring ridge is being used by other demon races. Don't you think that the demon race we don't know about is plotting something? I don't quite understand." The five-colored sea god shell nodded. "Apart from the golden-winged Great Peng, it's most likely the arcane Pentaceratops that want to obtain information about the dragon race. Those two great sages can both ascend by devouring dragons. From there, they can shatter the heavens. If the golden-winged Great Peng wasn't putting on a show today, then the arcane Pentaceratops must be behind this. What does this have to do with the Dragon Island? If it were that simple, how could the arcane Pentaceratops still be the arcane Pentaceratops? The flying feather void beast said earnestly, the dragon sage and the rock sage have always been at loggerheads, neither willing to give in to the other. Even if the dragon sage wanted to do something, he wouldn't be so obvious. He'd definitely use other channels and wouldn't let us see any clues. So it can only be the Dragon Island. Chapter 44-24. What does this have to do with Dragon Island? The five-colored sea god Seashell asked. You have the favor of the patriarch, so there's no need for you to think too much about this. The flying feather void beast sighed. However, I can't do that. The 9 elders of the 10 races of Dragon Island are all very conflicted. On top of that, Dragon Island seems to be unable to control the Dragon Palace. 200 years ago, a Dragon Master appeared on Dragon Island out of thin air. Will this Dragon Master be able to convince everyone? All of this could point the spearhead at the dragon that Peng Jun wants to interrogate. Even so, why should we choose between Dragon Island and the Great Holy Hall? The Pentaceratops has always been at odds with the Dragon Island and refused to obey the orders of the Dragon Island. Now that the Dragon Island has extended their claws into the Great Holy Palace and even set a trap for the Pentaceratops, do you think the Pentaceratops can do anything about it? The flying feather void beast mocked. On top of that, the golden rock was taught a lesson by that human grand ascension stage being. What can it do? The 7-star phoenix is an old friend of that human grand ascension stage being. What can it do? Hiss. The 5-colored sea god Seashell was even more astonished. You're right, Saint and I. If the pentagram dragon and the golden rock are on the same side, then our Great Holy Hall and Dragon Island will really have to go to war. Of course not. Our Great Holy Hall has 7 Great Holy Sages. Sparrow Saint and Spider Saint may not be willing. The flying feather void beast chuckled. Of course, we'll need Saint Bay's support. There's a mysterious being behind the 7-star phoenix. What choice do we have? The 5-colored sea god Seashell countered. Indeed, Saint Bay, I, and the patriarch know about this mysterious being. The flying feather void beast said in a mysterious manner. The other great holy sages don't know. Then, what if the Dragon Sage and Dragon Island aren't on the same side as Saint and I? Then Saint Bay should know what choice he should make. The 5-colored sea god Seashell void beast chuckled. The flying feather void beast laughed and said, otherwise, this saint would have wasted my breath talking so much. If that's the case. Hearing this, the 5-colored sea god Seashell suddenly felt enlightened. He said telepathically, the competition between the rock sage and the phoenix sage won't be that simple, right? Take a guess. The flying feather void beast smiled and flew into the distance. The 5-colored sea god Seashell shook his head with a wry smile. He also flew into the air, but without the 5-colored halo, he was much slower. Since even the 5-colored Seashell had vaguely guessed the golden-winged rock's intention, how could Foam Wu not know? After flying over countless mountains in a single day and frightening countless great demons, the sun gradually set and colorful clouds filled the sky. The Phoenix Parasol General spread his wings and began to slow down. Sure enough, as soon as Phoenix Wu slowed down, the voice of the golden-winged great rock sounded, Phoenix Sage, the one-day limit is not up yet. Why aren't you flying? Foam Wu smiled and said, this saint's specialty isn't flying. How can I possibly be Rock Saint's match? It's fine if we just spar like this, but why must we decide the victor? The golden-winged great rock's flying figure also slowly came to a stop. When Foam Wu flew closer, he said, Phoenix Sage, you're too modest. These words really make this saint feel ashamed. Flying is not Phoenix Sage's specialty, but this saint hasn't surpassed you by much in just one day. How can this saint still have the face to claim the title of the first great saint of the demon race? Ha! Foam Wu laughed, don't worry, rock saint. This saint has no interest in being the first great saint at all. Furthermore, at this point, could it be that you still care about this empty title in your heart? Phoenix Sage, you really don't care about the title of the first great saint? The golden-winged great rock was slightly taken aback and asked curiously. Feng Wu nodded solemnly, this saint is speaking from the bottom of my heart. Sigh. The golden-winged great rock sighed, if this saint had the same temperament as Phoenix Sage when I first became a great saint, why would I have to wait until today to break through the bottleneck? You're wrong, rock saint. Feng Wu smiled, if it weren't for the unyielding spirit of the past, I wouldn't have broken through the bottleneck today. If I hadn't taken one step at a time, how could I have reached my goal with such difficulty? That's what that human grand ascension stage cultivator often says, right? The golden-winged great rock asked in a probing manner. Feng Wu nodded, you're right, rock saint. I've benefited greatly from following fellow Taoist Xiao. I'm extremely envious that you have such a good friend, Phoenix Sage. The golden-winged great rock seemed to be implying something as he spoke. Feng Wu smiled, fellow Taoist Xiao is an approachable cultivator. If Rock Saint wants to, you can gather some information about his past. You'll be able to draw your own conclusions from this information, so there's no need for me to say anything. On top of that, if Rock Saint wants to, I can also introduce you to Taoist Xiao. Getting to know Taoist Xiao. I feel like it's a bit of a stretch. After all, I had a battle with him today, and it almost ended in a battle of life and death. The golden-winged great rock's tone was somewhat lacking in confidence, I just want Phoenix Sage to sound out Taoist Xiao and see if he believes me. You're wrong, Rock Saint. Feng Wu raised an eyebrow, and the sound of wind and thunder rang out from his wings, there's a saying in the human race that no discord, no concord. Didn't I have a battle with Rock Saint? Phoenix Sage is a demon, while Taoist Xiao is a human. This is different. The golden-winged great rock smiled bitterly, humans are the most petty and vengeful of all. I don't dare to believe him. Time will reveal a person's heart. Feng Wu smiled, in the future, Rock Saint will naturally know what kind of cultivator Taoist Xiao is. Oh, of course, that's if you have the time. Actually. The golden-winged great rock hesitated, I have to thank Taoist Xiao for being able to break through my bottleneck today, but I'm afraid that Taoist Xiao will misunderstand, so I don't dare to say too much. Feng Wu naturally knew what Xiao Hua's impression of the first great saint of the demon race was, so he smiled, don't worry, Rock Saint. Taoist Xiao should believe your words. Otherwise, why would he let you go? Humph. The golden-winged great peng bird harumphed coldly upon hearing that Xiao Hua intended to let it go. If I want to leave, not even the patriarch can do anything about it. Even though Taoist Xiao is a grand ascension stage human cultivator, he's not confident in being able to keep me here, is he? Feng Wu smiled, that's true. Rock Saint's movement technique is number one in the demon race. Taoist Xiao really might not be able to catch up to you. Huh, not necessarily, not necessarily. The golden-winged great rock realized his attitude was inappropriate and hurriedly shook his head, Taoist cultivators have many tricks up their sleeves. Perhaps Taoist Xiao has some powerful movement technique. Feng Wu smiled and scanned behind him with his essence sense, but didn't see the five-colored seashell or the flying feather void beast. He thought for a moment and said, Rock Saint, since you didn't send a message to Peng Jun of Shrouding Sky Ridge, who do you think it was? This. The golden-winged great rock hesitated. Feng Wu hurriedly said, don't worry, Rock Saint, this is just a casual chat between us. I know you don't have any idea, or you would have told Taoist Xiao. Why are you covering for someone else? AI. The golden-winged great rock sighed, actually, I already have a rough idea of who it is. I have a rough idea of who's behind this, but if I hadn't broken through my bottleneck and broken through to the void-shattering realm, and if you weren't a 7-star great saint, the great holy hall would have most likely revered you in the future. The safety of the great holy hall and the 1,000 demon sacred realm would have fallen on your shoulders. I wouldn't have told you. Oh. Is it that serious? Feng Wu was also stunned and asked in confusion. Of course. The golden-winged Great Peng's voice was filled with authority as he replied, to think that a demonic beast would use this saint to give orders. This clearly shows that they don't respect this saint or the great holy temple. These demonic beasts have ulterior motives. What they want to do, is beneficial to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. What do you mean, Rock Sage? Feng Wu seemed to understand something. That's right. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the Pentaceratops dragon's doing. The golden-winged great rock said firmly. Feng Wu smiled and looked at the golden-winged great rock. Didn't you just say you weren't sure? Why are you so sure now? Of the 6 great saints of the great holy hall, only I and the Pentaceratops dragon would covet the dragon. Since it wasn't me, then, it could only be the Pentaceratops dragon. Seeing that Feng Wu didn't believe him, the golden-winged great rock's tone became colder. He said unhappily, besides, he's been coveting my position as the first great saint of the demon race for a long time. In the entire demon race, he's the only one who dares to do something behind my back. Of course it's him. Also. The golden-winged great rock hesitated, then added, according to what I know, the Pentaceratops dragon seems to be in contact with some elders of Dragon Island. Otherwise, he wouldn't know about Daoist Zhao's relationship with the dragon race. Do you have any evidence, Rock Sage? Feng Wu asked with a smile. The golden-winged great rock stiffened and said coldly, my words are evidence. If you don't believe me, then so be it. In fact, if I hadn't broken through, I definitely wouldn't have said what I said today. I also wouldn't have schemed to find a chance to be alone with you. After all, a human Mahayana stage is only a human Mahayana stage. Even if you're stronger than me, so what? As for inviting you, that's because I respect you as a great saint of the demon race. I also want to borrow your power to restrain the Pentaceratops dragon. As for other thoughts, I don't have them. Chapter 44-25. Seeing the golden-winged great Peng bird speak directly like Peng Jun, Feng Wu also secretly felt respect for it. Although the strength of the golden-winged rock was there and there was no need to hide it, this was also related to the nature of the golden-winged rock. In fact, when Xiao Hua learned that the little white dragon had been suppressed by Bai Qingyu, he had discussed this matter with Feng Wu and the other clones. All of them felt that this matter might not necessarily have anything to do with the 6 great sages of the Great Sage Hall. After all, Xiao Hua's strength was only at the 5th or 6th level of origin energy. He was not even comparable to Bai Qingyu, so how could he possibly fall into the eyes of the great sages of the demon race? However, the appearance of the golden-winged Great Peng, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell in Bai Qingyu was out of Xiao Hua and Feng Wu's expectations. However, from the mouths of the 3 great saints, they heard something fishy and knew that they might have been deceived by the Monster King. However, at that time, all the explanations and speculations would be useless. Only by fighting and determining the victor would they have the right to speak. Therefore, when victory was within their grasp, whether it was Xiao Hua or Feng Wu, they more or less had compassion in their hearts and did not truly beat the 3 great saints to death. Especially later, when Xiao Hua revealed a portion of his strength, the 3 great saints saw Xiao Hua's sincerity. Although the 3 great saints didn't say anything, when they fought, they still left some leeway. Because at such a supreme realm, who would really risk their lives if there wasn't a great enmity between them? Not to mention that everyone had already realized that something was wrong. At that time, the fight was more about face. Because of this, when Xiao Hua was sucked into the great rainbow shell realm by Bai Xian, Feng Wu pulled the 3 great sages out of this matter. She stopped them and began to talk about romance. The 3 great sages naturally knew what Feng Wu was thinking. This was also the reason why the golden-winged great rock had invited Feng Wu after part of the truth had been revealed. Because he already knew that Feng Wu was the great sage of the demon race, even though Feng Wu had a very close relationship with Xiao Hua. Feng Wu accepted the invitation with ease because he knew very well that even the three great saints didn't have the strength to make things difficult for him. The three great saints definitely wouldn't make things difficult for him because of Bai Qingyu. It turned out that Feng Wu had become a great saint in the South Sea Dragon Palace's great array and had triggered a change in the starry sky of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The golden-winged rock and the other great saints of the demon race all flew out of their cultivation grounds and headed towards the great sage temple. They were all prepared to welcome the new great saint there. However, because Heavenly Phoenix had destroyed the star bridge leading to the great sage hall, Feng Wu didn't go. Therefore, the 6 great sages waited in vain at the great sage hall. The 6 great sages didn't gather often, so they took this opportunity to stay in the great sage hall for a while. During this time, the golden-winged great Peng received a message from Cangyu Tian saying that there were changes in the 3 demon territories in the far north. After reading the message, the golden-winged great Peng discussed with the other 5 great sages and invited the scarlet flame vermilion bird to the far north to take a look. At the same time, the flying feather void beast also received a message. He invited the 5-colored sea god Shell and the golden-winged great Peng to come to Bai Qingyu, saying that there would be a good show to watch. The golden-winged great Peng was unwilling to come to Bai Qingyu, but the flying feather void beast insisted on inviting him. Therefore, the golden-winged great Peng followed the flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god Shell to Bai Qingyu. The matter of going to the far north was left to the other 3 great sages. After the golden-winged great Peng finished speaking, Feng Wu asked curiously, "So, it wasn't Taoist Zhao's 200,000 Fortune Gates disciples that lured Sage Peng here?" "He, of course not." The golden-winged great Peng laughed. "This Holy One was shocked when we arrived here. Since when did so many high-level humans enter the Thousand Demons' sacred land? At that time, this Holy One thought that Sage and I had received the news in advance. There should be a transmission passage from the Great Holy Hall to Bai Qingyu, right?" Feng Wu asked again, "Otherwise, Sage Peng and the others wouldn't have arrived in such a timely manner." The golden-winged great Peng didn't hide anything and nodded. "There is a demonic formation in the Great Holy Hall that can draw on the power of the moon and stars to reach most places in the Thousand Demons' sacred land. We came here with the help of the demonic formation. However, the demonic beasts can only go from the Great Holy Hall to other places, and not from other places." The golden-winged great Peng suddenly thought of something and flapped his wings. "This Holy One forgot. Sage Phoenix has never entered the Great Holy Hall, and the Star Bridge can sense the star runes on Sage Phoenix's body. Sage Phoenix can rely on this connection to summon the Star Bridge in the Great Holy Hall. And, since Sage Phoenix is a 7 stars great sage, the Rainbow Bridge also has the power of 7 stars. Not to mention this Holy One, Sage and I, and Sage Bay can borrow Sage Phoenix's light. Even Sage Dragon, Sage Spider, and Sage Sparrow can be guided to the Great Holy Hall. P.S. Sagittarius Constellations, Nostalgia, Moonlight, Birthday Update. I hope everyone has a happy time." Chapter 44-26. So that's how it is. Feng Wu smiled. "No wonder I can sense the location of the Great Holy Temple no matter where I am in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Especially when I was sparring with Sage Peng, I felt a kind of suction force. So that's how it is." The golden-winged rock laughed when he heard Feng Wu call their previous fight a spar. He said, "Earlier, I resented Saint and I for scheming against me. However, after thinking about how I benefited from this disaster, I can't be bothered to argue with him anymore." "That's right," Feng Wu said earnestly. "There's a saying in the human race that unity is a fortress. If the 7 sages of the Great Holy Temple can't work together, how can we?" At this point, Feng Wu was at a loss for words. "Yes, what can we do?" Resist the invasion of the human race. Resist the enemy. However, Feng Wu's eyes turned, and she hurriedly covered it up. How can we resist the Dragon Island's instigation? How can we avoid a disaster? What Sage Feng said is true. The Golden Rock shouted. The dragon race is clearly a branch of the demon race, but they want to call themselves the dragon race and split themselves off. They even created a dragon island to compete with the Great Holy Temple. There are 4 dragon palaces in the 4 seas, and they are even more powerful than the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Damn it, the more I look at them, the more I dislike them. Also, this Pentaceratops, on the surface, seems to be at odds with the Dragon Island, but who knows how many tricks they have up their sleeves. Cough cough. Feng Wu coughed twice, looked back, and changed the topic. I wonder when Sage Enai and Sage Bei will arrive. Them. Humph. The Golden Rock said with disdain. They won't arrive until nightfall. Oh, right, Sage Feng, what method did that Mahayana human use? Even the old ancestor had to admit defeat. Also, what are those countless lights? It seems like, even Sage Bei was affected. Sage Bei kept saying that his bloodline was taken away. How can that be true? Feng Xing pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, this seems to be one of Spiritual Master Zhao's divine abilities. It is extremely powerful and should be related to bloodline. Taoist Master Zhao is very secretive about this kind of divine ability, and even I don't know much about it. However, if nothing unexpected happens, the 5-colored sea god shell is right. The sea god's bloodline of the Shell clan should have been taken away. Ah. Is that true? The Golden Rock was stunned to hear this. Is this human grand ascension stage being really that powerful? What do you think, Sage Peng? Feng Wu asked with a smile. If that wasn't the case, how could this sage be friends with him? Didn't I say so earlier? Taoist Zhao has helped me a lot in becoming a great sage. Although I don't know how the old ancestor helped Sage Peng become a great sage, this sage feels that. Taoist Zhao's help to this sage is definitely no less than the old ancestor's help to you. No wonder. The golden-winged great Peng bird nodded in response. In that case, I can forgive you for helping that grand ascension stage human. Feng Wu naturally didn't care about the golden-winged great Peng bird's forgiveness, but he still smiled. Since Sage Peng knows about this sage's difficulties, then it's easy to talk about it. If this sage can become friends with Taoist Zhao, then it'll be good for my 1,000-beast sacred realm. Didn't you see? Although the old ancestor has been defeated and her natal shell has been destroyed, she still doesn't dare to do anything to Taoist Zhao. Sigh, as a junior, I don't care so much about the old ancestor's matters. It's just a pity that the 5-colored sea god shell was originally ranked 4th, but now he's ranked last among the 7 great sages. Even if he's ranked last among the 7 great sages, he's still a great sage. It's better than losing his life. Feng Wu replied indifferently. Without the sea god's bloodline, Sage Peng bird's chances of shattering the void have become even slimmer. The golden-winged great Peng bird sighed. Feng Wu didn't think much of it. No one said that becoming a great sage means that one will definitely be able to shatter the void. Among the 7 great sages, perhaps only Sage Peng bird can shatter the void. Hee hee. The golden-winged great Peng bird was rather pleased by Feng Wu's flattery. He laughed a few times and said, "You're right, Sage Peng bird. Everyone sweeps the snow in front of their own door. Don't worry about the frost on the roof of their house." Yes, yes. Feng Wu nodded. We've already reached this level, so it's better not to think too much about scheming and scheming. Instead, we should think about how to reach the highest level. Oh, right, this sage doesn't know much about the 1,000-beast sacred realm. Can Sage Peng bird explain more about it? Well said, well said. The golden-winged great Peng bird was in a good mood. Before the five-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast flew over, he told Feng Wu a little about the thousand-beast sacred realm. When the stars shone, the five-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast did indeed arrive. The two great sages were very tactful. They didn't ask who the victor was. When the golden-winged great ping bird told them about how Feng Wu had used the star bridge to enter the great sage palace, the two great sages had no objections. Thus, Feng Wu raised her head and let out a phoenix cry. Her huge demonic body spread out. Then, on her back, the star patterns of the Big Dipper rotated. 7 pillars of stars fell from the Big Dipper in the starry sky. Then, the star patterns turned into a spinning shadow and rushed out. The moment the star patterns turned into a star shadow, Feng Wu sensed the location of the great sage palace. Without thinking too much, Feng Wu spread her wings. At the same time, her demonic body soared into the sky. The 7 star shadows also soared high into the sky. After the shadow spun a few times like a stream of light, boom. A rainbow bridge came through the sky. It was actually the same as the one Feng Wu saw in the southern sea dragon palace. Sage Ping Bird is indeed a 7-star great sage. Seeing that the arched rainbow bridge turned into 7 colors, the golden-winged great Ping Bird clapped his hands and shouted, "Even the star bridge is 7 colors. Come, 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 Saint and I, Saint Shell, let's each take a color." As he spoke, the golden-winged great Ping Bird landed on the yellow star bridge without waiting for Feng Wu's agreement. The flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god seashell looked at each other with understanding in their eyes. The 2 saints didn't say anything and each took a color. When the 3 saints landed on the bridge naturally didn't move. However, when Feng Wu's phoenix claw landed on the bridge, the space within a radius of 10,000 miles began to tremble. Then, thousands of light shadows appeared in the surroundings. These light shadows connected with the rainbow bridge's colors. Countless illusory stars were born in the light shadows, and on the other side of the bridge, an incomparably majestic palace appeared. This palace was naturally the Great Sage Palace. As soon as the Great Sage Palace appeared, it rapidly enlarged and gradually became clearer. In a trance, Feng Wu discovered that the space around him had unknowingly changed. The rainbow bridge under his feet had disappeared at some point in time. Not only was the starry sky no longer high up in the sky, but it was below his feet. Layers of nebulae flowed above his head like a river. The golden-winged great Ping Bird, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell that were standing near him also disappeared. Strange. Feng Wu glanced around and found so many strange things. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart. But the moment his eyes moved, the originally tall Great Sage Palace seemed to have been hit by a pen. The entire palace was completely distorted, turning into an enormous vortex and condensing into an extremely small dot of light. When Feng Wu looked at the dot of light again, it suddenly shrank and turned into a pitch-black dot that was close to nothingness. Hiss. Feng Wu sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes also shrank into dots of light. He seemed to have sensed something. Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. A powerful and unparalleled suction force appeared in the small dot and rushed out in a spiral shape. The entire starry sky, the flowing nebulae, and the 7 star patterns on Feng Wu's back, which were Feng Wu's body, suddenly distorted and were pulled in by the suction force. It was very strange. Feng Wu felt that her consciousness had been divided into 14 parts. 7 of them fell into a small dot as if they had been crushed. The shattering of the entire starry sky, the rotation of light and shadows, and the shattering of the brilliance of the nebula were all vivid in her mind. Meanwhile, the other 7 were nailed to the spot and could only watch as their surroundings turned into pitch-black darkness and finally disappeared into nothingness. Boom! The moment the shadows completely disappeared, the small dot suddenly exploded. Countless ripples of all kinds rushed out from the small dot. Every inch of the ripples would transform into different things. First, it was light, then shadows, then dust, nebulae, stars, and so on. Many things that Feng Wu had never seen before flew out. When all of them landed in various parts of the darkness, a star slowly flew out from the small dot. The moment this star flew out, many things disappeared. Only the starry sky that Feng Wu was familiar with was revealed once again. Moreover, the stars in the starry sky gradually rotated in the starry sky as the star grew larger. Each star's trajectory was different. Whoosh! When the star grew larger, the starlight of the star flashed again, and the shadow of the palace appeared. This shadow was the same as the star patterns on Feng Wu's body. It was not solid. When the shadow took shape, the star completely disappeared. Boom boom boom. The entire starry sky shook again. All the stars fell from the starry sky and crashed into the shadow of the palace. In the blink of an eye, a majestic great sage palace that was completely made of stars appeared once again. Woo! 7 howling winds transformed into the cries of phoenixes. In the great sage hall, where the Big Dipper had crashed into, 7 palace doors appeared, each of which was engraved with the words, Great Sage Hall. When the 7 palace doors opened at the same time, 7 stars gushed out and covered Feng Wu's consciousness in 7 different places. Just as the stars fell, the 7 consciousnesses worked together again. Woo! The 7 stars merged into one and formed an even larger star. Where the star landed, the heavenly phoenix demonic body, which had disappeared to an unknown location, appeared again. Ka-cha-cha. Countless bolts of lightning appeared around the great sage hall, and wherever the lightning struck, countless stars would appear. The 7 palace doors transformed into an even larger star door, and Feng Wu slowly flew towards the star door amidst the starry sky. Chapter 44-27. Every time Feng Wu got closer to the Star Gate, the accumulation of tens of thousands of years under the South Sea Dragon Palace, or even hundreds of thousands of years, melted bit by bit. Just like Xiao Hua's epiphany between life and death, it turned into starlight and fell into his consciousness. At the same time, the mysteries of the starry sky derived from the Great Sage Hall were also engraved in his star marks and consciousness. Feng Wu didn't know if time had any meaning here. Perhaps it was in the blink of an eye, or tens of thousands of years. He didn't feel anything at all. He only knew that everything was changing, but he didn't know what exactly had changed until his figure fell into the Star Gate. Boom! Feng Wu's consciousness was completely blank again. Just like how the Great Sage Hall was annihilated and reborn, all his consciousness gathered at one point and then reborn again. This cycle repeated a total of 7 times before Feng Wu saw that he was in a vast starry sky again. The starry sky was everywhere, up, down, left, and right. In the center of the starry sky, there were 6 stars that stood out. However, among the 6 stars, 3 of them were shining brightly, while the other 3 were dim and lightless. This is the Great Sage Hall. A proud voice came out of Feng Wu's mouth. It was the same voice as Feng Wu's, but the tone was completely different. Wasn't this the consciousness of the heavenly phoenix? Oh! The corner of the heavenly phoenix's mouth twitched, because he had already seen the figures of the golden-winged great roc, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell within the 3 starlights. Huh, Phoenix Sage! The golden-winged great roc's voice came from one of the starlights, and then the star slowly transformed, revealing a huge golden-winged great roc. Without entering the Great Sage Hall, without going through the baptism of the starry river, you will never be a true great saint. Now, you are qualified to call yourself Phoenix Sage. A 7-star great saint is indeed different. The flying feather void beast also appeared in another star. You just entered the Great Sage Hall, and your starlight is 7 times brighter than mine. Oh, your starlight has already materialized. The heavenly phoenix's gaze swept over, and he could already tell that the star formed by the golden-winged great rock was much more solid, while the flying feather void beast and the five-colored sea god shell were much more illusory. The rainbow sea god seashell also forced a smile onto its face. The holy phoenix's starlight has already been withdrawn, and it's not far from materializing. Boom, boom, boom. Before the five-colored sea god seashell could finish, in the starry sky, the 7 stars shine brightly. Along with this light, the star patterns on the heavenly phoenix's back suddenly rush out of the monster body. An extremely strong suction force is generated from the star patterns. This suction force ignores space and falls into the 7 stars. Boom! The 7 stars shattered at the same time and issued a loud sound. They turned into countless stardust particles and fell into the runes of the Big Dipper. Ah! What's going on? Even the five-colored seashell and the flying feather void beast were shocked. They had never seen anything like this before, nor had they seen anything like this in the records of the Great Sacred Hall. They didn't know what was going on. After the 7 stars shattered, the 7 spots were empty. However, this wasn't the end. Immediately after, 6 more stars lit up. The 6 pillars of stars fell on 6 of the 132 million dots. The bloodlines of the 6 dots began to mutate within the pillars of stars. As they fused with the transparent body, 6 star patterns slowly formed on the transparent body. Every tiny star pattern carried a mysterious aura, as well as a vast and unparalleled power of the stars and moon. Unlike the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper had transformed into shadows. The 6 stars of the Southern Dipper. How is this possible? The golden-winged rock's body couldn't turn into a star under the starlight of the heavenly phoenix and had been forced to turn into a monster body. Seeing this, he cried out in disbelief, could it be, that the 7-star great saint is going to become a 13-star great saint? No, it's not just that. The flying feather void beast's eyes were filled with extreme terror. Its tentacles pointed at the stars that lit up one after another. It was almost as if they were about to explode. The great golden-winged rock shifted his gaze away from the heavenly phoenix and looked towards the starry sky. Sure enough, the stars lit up one by one, and pillars of starlight fell from the sky, blasting into the heavenly phoenix's demonic form. The heavenly phoenix's demonic form gradually began to expand, enveloping the entire great sage hall. In front of this gigantic demonic form, the demonic form that the great golden-winged rock was so proud of was like a sparrow. The pillars of stars in the sky finally converged into a river of stars. Countless mysteries of the stars filled the great sacred hall as if they were free. The five-colored seashell could no longer think with his body. When he looked at the great sage hall again, it no longer looked like a sacred hall. Instead, it had turned into a gigantic planet. This planet was made up of tens of millions of planets, and every single one of them had turned into a pitch-black vortex. These vortexes were filled with a strange and powerful suction force. Not only did they suck in the surrounding light and shadows, but they also drew in endless stars through the mysterious bridge of stars. This corresponded to the brilliant starry sky above the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. It was as bright as day. In the extreme north of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, there was a thick layer of ice as far as the eye could see. There was no sun or blue sky in the sky. Layers of dark clouds completely covered the horizon, and goose feather-like snowflakes filled the world and fell. There was no wind in the sky, only the falling snowflakes. The mountains of different heights didn't look like mountains at all. All that was left was a faint outline. There was a huge ice plain between the mountains, and there were no traces of the demon race on it. The fluffy snow was like a wrinkle-free quilt covering the earth. Occasionally, there would be a hard layer of ice between the mountain peaks. It was abnormally translucent. When the snowflakes fell, they would instantly become a part of the ice layer. At the moment when the snowflakes were frozen, the ice threads reflected the sky full of snow. The ice was like a mirror. It was as if snow was pouring out from the sky and earth, majestically surging through the world. Puff. Out of nowhere, there was a sudden movement in the snow-white world. Then, there was another puff, puff, puff sound. There was a place full of black holes in the snowy plains. The holes were not big, only a few inches wide. They were like eyes that had been born out of the earth, looking straight at the gloomy sky. Who? When a small red head poked out of the hole, a chubby little face appeared in the light of the snow. The most spirited feature on the little face was the pair of eyes. Two red agate-like eyeballs were rolling around on the crimson face. Below the eyes was the most striking nose on the little face. The nose actually took up 40% of the little face. There were even a few pieces of snow stuck on the nose. The snow slowly melted under the hot breath exhaled from the nostrils and dripped onto the mouth below the nose. As if it was itchy, the little mouth opened slightly, revealing two sharp, snow-white incisors. Slurp. Between the incisors, a small pink tongue quickly curled around the lips, and the snow instantly disappeared. After the small tongue retracted, the little mouth happily moved up and down. Gee. Sounds came from within. After a few more cries, 3 red claws stretched out from under the little head. Each of the claws was holding a demonic fruit that was only a few inches long. Crunch crunch. The little head lowered, and the sharp teeth landed on the demonic fruit. In a few breaths' time, the demonic fruit was completely devoured. In the end, the pink tongue licked the 3 claws again, sweeping away the remains and juice of the demon fruit. At this place, crunch crunch. Sounds of crunching could be heard everywhere, covering the sound of snow falling from the sky. Tens of thousands of little heads like this had already appeared in the snow plains, and each of them greedily ate the demonic fruit. These cute little creatures were the commonly seen autumn rats in the northernmost part of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Crunch crunch. The sounds of crunching were extremely rhythmic, but all of a sudden, all of the sounds stopped. All of the autumn rats put down the demonic fruit that they were eating, and their little heads swayed left and right with all their might. Their eyes were filled with panic. Swoosh. Just a few dozen feet away from these autumn rats, a sound suddenly came from a small pile of snow. A white figure flashed out from the pile of snow, and pounced on the closest autumn rat. Puff. Where the white figure landed, a red light flashed from within the hole, and the autumn rat had already fallen into the snow. The white figure's figure only caused snow and dust to fly, but it did not manage to grab a single strand of the autumn rat's red hair. At this moment, the white figure's figure was revealed. It was the autumn rat's natural enemy, the snow spear. This snow spear was like a leopard cat, but its 4 hooves were closer to the sides of its body, and there was an almost transparent membrane between its hooves. When the snow spear's attack missed, its membrane flapped again, and its body floated like a snowflake. It was as fast as lightning, and it attacked the closest autumn rat. Swoosh. The autumn rat immediately retracted its head, but the snow spear's figure swayed, and it actually abandoned the autumn rat and turned to the other side. Over there, another autumn rat stuck its head out of the hole in the snow, as if it was watching a show. It was not in a hurry to escape, as if a life-and-death battle on this lonely snowy plains was also interesting. Seeing the snow spear suddenly pounce on it, the autumn rat was greatly frightened. It was already unable to dodge, and its little head only retracted half an inch. Puff. The snow spear's claws landed on the autumn rat's skull with lightning speed, and some green-red blood spurted out while emitting hot air. Once the snow spear succeeded, it did not stop at all. Its membrane flapped, and its figure flew into the distance. Under its sharp claws, the snow spear's corpse dripped with blood, and it fell onto the snowy plains. Looking at the distant autumn rats, as the snow spear flew away, they began to become active again. They did not panic just because an autumn rat was killed, and the autumn rats that were slightly further away did not even notice that an autumn rat was killed.